I woke up inside the wizard world of Loden with a stranger's name, Green, a half-dead body and an invading army on the road. Magic ran everything here, and I could not cast a spark. Then a chip called Truth woke in my head, reading my blood, my bones, and every rune I carried down to the decimal. Months later, I brewed a life potion no apprentice should have managed, and Lillian took me as her only student. The dying squire had become the prize. Pause for 2 seconds and click like, click subscribe. Your support is the only reason these videos get made. But to understand the gift, you have to see the curse first. Let me start over. I open my eyes and my head weighs about as much as a cannonball. It takes effort to move it all. I am lying in the bed of a cart on hard boards under a thin scatter of hay, and every rut in the road puts a new bruise somewhere. The wheels grind and creak, the jolting turns my stomach over, and the air in here is sawdust and mildew and the particular smell old things get when nobody moves them for years. Bulging sacks and nailed crates are stacked all around me, and grain trickles out of the seams whenever we hit a hole. The crates carry a barony crest burned into the wood, a soaring eagle, worn faint enough to say this cart has been in service a very long time. Where am I? I ask the empty cart, and a whole life that is not mine comes in on top of the question. The dizziness is immediate. 2 sets of memories braid together in my skull, and for a moment I cannot say which world in front of me is the real one. I slap myself in the side of the head, hard, and the strands come apart and settle. I was a man from Earth in the 23rd century, a scientist with about as much standing as a person can accumulate in that field. Then I got old, and my abilities started sliding backward, while my ambition kept climbing, and I have never taken that kind of thing gracefully. So I volunteered for a cutting-edge quantum chip implantation. If it worked, the chip would make me the sharpest mind alive. Judging by the hay under me, it did not work. I sit there with a bitter little smile on a face I have not seen yet. This situation is identical to the transmigration novels people were writing 400 years before I was born. If the multiverse people back home ever found out that volunteering for a chip implant is a functioning method of crossing universes, they would tear each other apart over the waiting list. Although I have no standing to call anyone else crazy, I put a computer in my own skull to stay clever. I sigh and go back to sorting through what I have been handed. Loden Kingdom. Green, a barony, and something called the night breathing technique. I say the words out loud and none of them mean anything to me yet. It is not only that I have crossed over, my soul has fused with a boy named Green, and I am going to have to learn to be him. So I settle in and read his life. This world runs somewhere near the European Middle Ages, on a landmass called the Osphale continent, and hundreds of kingdoms on it grind against each other constantly. Every year or two the news comes that one of them has stopped existing. Loden Kingdom, where I now live, is on the larger end of the local scale. The only 2 powers that can genuinely threaten it are the Kingdom of Saladin and the Maslow Alliance. The Maslow Alliance is a nation of merchants that has never started a war in its life. Saladin is a different matter. Saladin and Loden scrape at each other along the border year after year, trading wins and losses, and each of them would happily swallow the other whole. All that grinding is what made the military merit peerage system popular in both kingdoms. Commoners join the army, take enough heads, and come out the other side as nobles. The territory I am currently being carted across is exactly that kind of place. A dozen odd years ago, in one of those wars, the man who is now the Baron took the head of an enemy knight on the field, and the Krollo family got this fief for it. By the standards of the whole northern province, the Krollo family counts as comfortably off minor nobility. The land sits against the Annabelle Mountains with peaks on 3 sides, and a river out of those mountains runs straight through the middle of it. The barony is enormous. On horseback it takes an hour to cross. That is where Green's geography ends, because in a world with roads like these, most people die within sight of where they were born. He knows the little he knows because Old Green explained it to him. And thinking the name Old Green produces something warm in my chest that has nothing to do with me, which is going to take some adjusting to. Nobody knows Old Green's real name. Everyone calls him that. He answers to it. He has never once corrected anybody or offered an alternative. And after enough years the name's simply set. During the last war with Saladin, he served on the same team as the Baron of this territory, and in one operation he took a blade meant for the man. It saved the Baron and it left Old Green with damage that never healed, and after that he could not practice the breathing technique anymore. When the war ended, the Baron made him warehouse manager of the territory, which is a comfortable post with generous pay and almost no work in it. Nobody in that castle disrespects Old Green. The few who tried it years ago were collected by the Baron personally and drowned in the river that runs through the territory. And Old Green has never once traded on any of that. He stays quiet and he stays humble. As for how Green fits into it, Green is an orphan Old Green adopted. He found the baby in the snow one winter on the way back from market. An infant left out in that cold should have been dead and instead was thriving, which is strange from every angle you look at it. Old Green went and checked afterward and found that not one child had been born in the entire barony that day, which settled the matter for him. The heavens had handed him a son. He had lost the ability to have children of his own along with everything else that Blade took, so he raised this one with everything he had, and the boy grew up devoted to him. I am still smiling about a man I have never met when the cart hits a rock big enough to knock me out of it. So I stop reminiscing and get back to intelligence work, because there is one more thing in these memories that matters more than the rest. This world has a transcendent power in it, called the night breathing technique. Working the technique activates something called the life seed inside the body, and that gives a person strength no ordinary human can approach. There are 4 ranks. A knight apprentice has learned the basics and formed the life seed, and a peak apprentice already exceeds the physical ceiling of a human being. Calling one of them a match for 10,000 men is not an exaggeration. Working from what I know, an ordinary apprentice sits about where a super soldier out of an old movie would sit, with every physical attribute pinned at the top of what a body can do. Throwing more men at one of them accomplishes nothing. An official knight has worked for years and fully activated the life seed, and now sits well past human in raw strength. They can meet the fierce beasts of this world hand to hand and win, which matters because the beasts here are faster and stronger than anything my old world grew. Some of the bigger ones are essentially tanks. An official knight is a tank shaped like a man. A great knight's life seed has grown further and taken root in the soul, and it lets them put a translucent life barrier around their body. Nothing below their tier can get through that at all. Their vitality is stubborn, their lifespan stretches out, and they can reach 200 years old. From the description in Green's memory, those barriers would shrug off artillery. And then a paladin, which is exactly what the title suggests. Their life seed has become a whole tree inside the soul, and they can convert outside power through the breathing technique and fight without ever needing to stop. They open mountains with a sword stroke. They are the load-bearing pillar of a kingdom. They live 400 years, and one of them is the strongest guarantee a country can have that it will still exist in a century. This world is a wonder, I decide. And I mean it. The memories have finished arriving, and I have finished arguing with the situation. From here on, I live in this world under the name Green. The 2 kingdoms are both catching their breath after the last war, which means I have landed in a relatively peaceful window. I am curious about all of it, and underneath the curiosity is the practical part. I need power, quickly. If the next war starts and the king calls up soldiers and I am one of them, then with the arms and legs currently attached to me, I am not a soldier. I am material. Somebody with an official knight's rank takes my head in passing and never learns my name. The cart stops. An old voice outside tells me we have arrived. I lift the curtain, jump down, and walk into a market. It sits in the middle of the barony, sprawling out in every direction, and it is loud in the specific way markets are loud. Hawkers, bargaining, kids underfoot. Old Green parks the cart out at the edge, ties the horse off to a tree, and heads in without a backward glance. There is not a person in this barony who does not recognize that cart. He gets some distance before he notices I am still standing there like a stunned bird, and shouts back at me, smiling, asking what I am daydreaming about, and telling me to come help. I say I am coming, and I go and help, and we work through the shopping and I use the time to look at the world I have landed in. The market is busy and most of the people in it are in coarse cloth with weathered faces, which tells me what I need to know about the standard of living. Old Green takes me from shop to shop and I trail behind him loading purchases onto the cart, which apparently matches how quiet this boy has always been, so nobody looks at me twice. We are hauling the last of it back toward the cart when I decide to ask. I tell him I have a question, and he puts down what he is holding and turns around to give me his full attention, which is a thing I file away about him. I tell him I want to learn the night breathing technique. He stares for a second and then laughs at me. Impatient, he calls me. He tells me to relax, because once I come of age and my body finishes setting, he will pass the technique on himself. I ask him why we have to wait for that. The breathing technique puts an enormous load on the body, he says, and cultivating before you have finished growing damages the foundation. Then why, I ask, can the Baron's son practice it from childhood? That one makes him look at me differently. The old Green never asked a single question about the breathing technique in his life, and here I am running an interrogation in a market. But he answers me patiently anyway. Practicing the technique is paid for in vitality, he explains. Condensing the life seed is a process of burning your own life down. An apprentice gets strength far past an ordinary person, and the price is exactly that. If they cannot break through to official knight and get the life seed fully formed so it can pull in outside energy and feed them, the consumption kills them, and not slowly. The Baron's son can carry that load young because the Baron pours his own life power into the boy. Without an official knight father doing that, a child who starts early is not training, he is dying on a schedule. And an official knight, he adds, can only support one child that way. He asks me to look at the Baron's other sons and daughters, who all wait for adulthood exactly like I will. That answers it, so I let it go, pick up the parcels and follow him. Privately, I am counting my luck. Old Green happens to own a breathing technique, and for an ordinary commoner in this world that is close to impossible, he has it because he went to war between Loden and Saladin, took his share of the fighting, and impressed an official knight enough that the man taught it to him. He cannot use it himself anymore. It is still one of the most valuable objects in this territory. Besides Old Green, the only people in the whole barony who have one are the Baron and the Captain of the Guard. No shortage of people have spent years trying to get close to Old Green for exactly this reason. And I get it handed to me for nothing, which is not lost on me. We walk a while longer before he speaks again, and I hear him thinking about it first. If I want, he says, he can teach me swordsmanship and archery in advance. I have been walking behind him with my head down and my head comes straight up. Teach me the sword early. Of course I am willing. Something pleased moves across that old face, and he says nothing else. And I notice his pace toward the cart picks up considerably. We load the last of it, and he puts me in the back and drives us home. The hooves start up again on the road, and I sit watching the country go by with a great many thoughts in my head. I know I am starting over. In this place, I have to learn to adapt, learn to survive, and learn to hold on to my own future. In my last life, I went after knowledge and power hard enough to volunteer for an experiment that might kill me, and none of that appetite crossed over any lighter than it was. Only strength lets a man own his own fate. I look at the mountain-splitting night sitting in this boy's memory, and I close my fist, and I decide. The cart rolls on toward the castle warehouse, which is where Old Green and I live. Midsummer, and the sun bakes the road until the air over it warps and the whole horizon looks like it is dissolving. Our cart, loaded with supplies, crawls toward the distant castle. I came out of the cabin to see this world with my own eyes, even if it is only geography. So I have the reins, and Old Green is inside resting. Everything around us is drooping. The grass and the small trees have gone tired in the heat and their leaves hang. I take my time looking at the castle up ahead. It is exactly what a medieval castle is supposed to be, standing on the plain with walls dozens of meters high and made of white boulders that throw the sunlight back hard enough to sting. Arrow slits run all along the walls, sealed shut for now. When a war comes and enemies reach those walls, the slits open and the archers behind them introduce the visitors to the sound death makes. There is a moat around the whole thing with water moving through it constantly. The Baron supervised that project himself, cutting channels to bring the Annabelle River around to the castle's flank. Leaning on the rail, I keep the cart moving. By what is in this head, we have another 2 or 3 hourglasses before we get back, and I have been using every one of them to file what I inherited. After the second hourglass, the narrow track widens out, and the gravel underfoot thickens until it stops being packed yellow mud, and the ride smooths under me. Old Green does not need me to tell him. He has done this road more times than he could count, and he pulls the curtain, glances at me first, and then at the castle. No need for the main gate, he says. Take the side path, go around the castle, and drive straight back to our warehouse. The castle's stores are split into an inner and outer section, and the inner one is the real thing. What Old Green manages is mostly the castle's odds and ends, which is not an important job by anybody's measure. I do not ask to detour past the castle. I nod a few times, put the reins over, and swing us into a long curve. We work our way around the moat. The guards on the wall stare straight ahead and do not spare us a glance, which does not surprise me. Everybody in this castle knows Old Green, and the Krollo family emblem is stamped on the cart. Even a guard who arrived last week knows better than to trouble a vehicle carrying that. The wilderness on both sides is very quiet. There is the pattering of the cart, and there are birds, and there is nothing else. Eventually, the warehouse comes into view. We live at some remove from the castle. This building is technically a castle store, and the overwhelming majority of what is in it is junk. It is a soft post the Baron built specifically for Old Green, and when Old Green dies, I will probably inherit the management of it as his adopted son, with rather worse terms attached. That thought comes with something cold behind it. Old Green practiced the breathing technique young, so his life force is already spent down, and then the injury took another cut out of it. He does not have a great many years left, which means I do not have a great deal of time. I put another 30% on the horse and bring us in fast beside the stable. The instant we stop, Old Green hauls himself out on the handrail. He says one word, unload, and we do it together. It is only daily supplies, so it costs us nothing. Then I strip the harness, walk the horse into the stable, and 4K into the trough while the animal makes short work of it. I do the whole sequence without a hitch, exactly the way this body always has. Old Green sits and watches me finish, then stands up and tells me to come with him, and does not explain, and walks off ahead. I take 2 steps for his one and follow him to the warehouse door. There is an enormous crossbar splitting it down the middle. The wood was good once and painted bright red. Years of weather have dulled it flat and left long winding rain tracks crossing each other like a record of every season it has stood through. He fishes the key out of his pocket, the lock cracks open, and he shoves the door wide with a sustained groan of hinges. Inside is tables, chairs, benches out of the Baron's manor, hammers, axes, farm tools. He does not look at any of it. He leads me deeper in, and the smell that meets me is wet wood and rot, and I feel my face pull. As far as this boy's memory goes, the warehouse is formal storage and gets opened maybe a few times a year. And old Green has always kept the only key. Green has no idea at all what is at the back of it. Past the junk, the light goes bad. Old Green picks an oil lamp off a shelf without looking and lights it, and the glow opens up the far end for me. Everything back here is different. It is all sorted, all categorized, all stored properly, and even though it is still junk, somebody has taken real care of it. He winds through and stops in front of a large sheet of fabric, with obvious shapes bulging under it. He sets the lamp down, takes a corner in his hand, and throws it clear. Underneath is a suit of armor, and the oil lamp catches it, and the shifting light makes the thing look alive. Old Green reaches out and runs a hand over it slowly, the way a man touches somebody he has not seen in 20 years. I do not ask, because it is obvious what it is. He wore this on the field. A knight apprentice has the standing to own a set of his own. This armor passes to me, he says at last. We begin formal training tomorrow, and he asks whether I am ready, and he watches me the whole time he says it, plainly testing. I straighten up, let the muscle come tight, and look back at him without blinking, and I tell him I am ready. Something nyang comes into his eyes. He has no idea why this boy changed so completely in one day, and drive and ambition are good things to find in a son, so he lets it go. He opens a box beside the armor and takes out a long sword with a cold edge on it and a heavy bow built out of metal, and hands both to me with both hands. I am not fit to wear the armor yet, he says. Without a knight apprentice's strength, I cannot carry its weight. Sword and bow first. I grab for them and my hands drop under the weight before I catch myself and haul them up, which delights me, privately. In my old life, an ordinary man would strain to lift objects this heavy, let alone fight with them. Here, this is standard equipment for the lowest rank there is. If this is what an apprentice carries, I would very much like to know what an official knight can do. Old Green watches me turn the weapons over and over and finally tells me to stop playing with them and go cook, because he is starving. A world at this technology level does not have anything I would call a high-grade ingredient. Dinner is 2 loaves of white bread from the market, honey sauce, and chunks of meat. There are 2 of us at the table, and I eat like an animal, honey in one hand and roast meat in the other, shoveling. Since I got here, I have done nothing but think, and thinking runs a body down harder than people expect. Old Green eats slowly and watches this performance without comment. And when I stop, I take stock and conclude that I have been dealt a genuinely excellent hand. That plain meal is top-tier food for an ordinary person in a world with productivity this low. White bread only comes within reach of commoners on Loden Kingdom's founding day, when every merchant runs a discount. Honey sauce and roast meat are not things most people here will ever taste. I am wiping my mouth with the napkin when a voice speaks up inside my skull. It announces that energy intake has been detected as sufficient, and that the ultra-intelligent chip has initiated. I look around the room on reflex. Old Green is bent over his food and nobody else is here, which means that arrived inside my own head. The ultra-intelligent chip, that is the code name of the quantum chip I had implanted in my last life. Everything I know about that chip and every crazy person who worked on it comes back at once, and my heart rate goes up and my breathing goes with it. Old Green catches it immediately and asks what is wrong and why I am so tense. I tell him it is nothing, only nerves about tomorrow's training. Then I say I need to prepare for it and I am going to bed, and I get out of that room. I sit down on my bed and call up the chip's operating platform. I tell it to begin initial setup. Setup has begun, it tells me, and asks me to name the chip. The voice that says it is female and sounds unnervingly like one of those cheap phone assistants from 4 centuries back, which I have opinions about. That voice package was bought off a shelf. The first chip anybody built, and they handled it that sloppily. And people wonder why the implantation failed. I have always suspected the reason I ended up here is that the staffing on that project did not understand their own experiment. I name it Truth without hesitating, because I picked that name a long time ago and never got to use it. Naming successful, it says. Truth at your service. I will become the smartest person in this world, and it would like me to remember to leave a good review. I ignore that and start going through what it can do. By what I remember, as the first-generation quantum chip built to my own specifications, this thing has 2 capabilities that were optimized past everything else: storage and analysis. On storage, the chip binds to human genes and modifies a specific cell, and after modification, one cell can hold something close to the entire accumulated knowledge of humanity across 1,000 years. On analysis, it is heavily weighted toward logic and high-precision data processing, which makes it a supercomputer with a very good intelligence sitting on top of it. I ask whether we can browse the human knowledge base that came with it. It reports detecting the storage space and finding no knowledge in it. That lands badly for a second. Then I let the disappointment go. because a quantum chip crossing universes with me is already an absurd blessing, and asking for the library on top is greed. So I open the storage space and start putting my own knowledge into it instead. I was the top of my field in my last life, and what is in this head is not nothing. I put the light out and lie down and do not sleep. I input and keep inputting, and the night goes. Somebody is shaking me gently and I surface without a clue how long I have been under. Before I get my eyes open, I hear that familiar, slightly hoarse voice asking what happened to me and why I am this exhausted, and suggesting I was too excited to sleep. Old Green is standing over the bed. I was uploading until the small hours and the energy that costs is not trivial, and I overslept. So I take the excuse he handed me. I say I got excited about starting training and could not settle. He does not suspect a thing. He gives me one concerned look, satisfies himself that I am only tired, tells me to get up and wash and that we start after breakfast, and leaves. I open the window and pull a few lungfuls of cold morning air, which helps. Washing in this era is an experience. There is no toothbrush and no toothpaste. There are 2 cloths, one for my face and one to dip in salt water and drag across my teeth. And even those 2 items are outrageous luxury to an ordinary commoner. I put myself together the way this body knows how, and go down to the dining room, where Old Green has already eaten and vanished somewhere. I sit down and eat properly this morning instead of inhaling it. I have Truth build a model of the white bread and detect the components. It analyzes and reports back. Wheat flour at 70%, water at 20, milk at 4, eggs at 2, yeast at 2, sugar at 1, salt at 1, and traces of various spices. I nod at my breakfast because Green's memory of how this bread gets made agrees with the chip exactly, and my expectations for the analysis engine go up accordingly. I finish and push the front door open to go ask Old Green where I should start, since getting this body into shape is the only priority I have. I do not get 3 steps before he shouts from behind the warehouse that he has already set up a training ground. I go around the back at a run, and there are 3 targets standing where there was nothing yesterday, plus a large humanoid wooden stake and an assortment of stone equipment set out around it. Even the ground has been dealt with, the loose gravel picked out and thrown aside, and the uneven patches filled in. It is a small training ground. It also took thought, and it took hours, which means he was up long before I imagined he was. There are things words are not good for. If I can hold to this training, that is worth more to him than anything I could say. I take a breath and look at him, and I tell him we should start, and there is nothing tentative in it. That firmness knocks him off his stride for a second. Then the smile leaves his face and he looks at me seriously and agrees, and says we begin with conditioning. The sun climbs into a cloudless sky and pours down until the ground bakes white and throws the light back. The heat waves make the fields and the trees shiver like the whole country is complaining. And in the middle of all of it, there is one figure running a country road, and it is me. Old Green did not put me straight into night training. My body does not meet the standard, and starting the real work early would leave hidden injuries in me, so the foundation comes first. I run and I work at holding a rhythm in my breathing. Truth has taken a full read of my physical condition and built a training method fitted precisely to me. I wipe the sweat off my forehead before it gets into my eyes, and check the numbers refreshing in the lower right of my vision. The chip has me at strength 0.9, speed 0.9, physique 1. Strength covers muscle and explosive output, speed covers movement and reaction, physique covers recovery and how much abuse I can take. This is Truth's own scale, built by measuring me and comparing against everything else it can see. And on this scale, a value of 1 is what a standard adult ought to be. This body is 16 years old and has lived comfortably enough that it is already near the average adult in this world. The chip tells me 3 kilometers a day for a week brings speed to 1.0. 30 throwing repetitions a day for a week improves coordination and brings strength to the same. The worst part of training alone is the absence of feedback. I do not have that problem. I have Truth reporting my body to me down to the decimal, and watching those numbers climb is fuel. It also corrects me constantly. It catches my running posture deforming and tells me to fix it, keep the head up, stop dropping the chin. With the chip riding along, every movement I make is textbook, which means every movement loads the muscle groups it is supposed to load. Then the boring part starts, and Old Green supervises it day after day. Running, weighted running, lifting, long jump, throwing stones, and riding. It becomes the shape of my life. My appetite goes through the roof, which is not a problem, because Old Green's position in the castle means money is not something we worry about. Word gets around the barony that I am training. When I run past the commoner districts, the looks I get are pure envy. To them, this is early night preparation, and it puts me in a class they will never occupy. Old Green having a breathing technique was never a secret here, so everyone can do the arithmetic on what all this running is for. Even the castle guards look at me that way. Those men do not live badly. Without a breathing technique, they will never cross the line that matters, and their ceiling is right where they are standing. I can cross it. If I learn the technique and make knight apprentice, I hold a special status in this barony for the rest of my life. I ignore all of it and train, and I hold to the plan through whatever the weather does. Winter comes and Old Green finally calls a stop. The north wind brings heavy snow that dresses the barony in silver and seals every road except the main one, which the Baron sends men out to clear. We clear the open ground beside the cabin and move the 3 targets in the wooden stake around from behind the warehouse. Old Green looks me over. Months outdoors have darkened skin that used to be fair and put calluses across both my hands, and something aches in his face before he puts it away and turns serious. After these months of conditioning, he says, my physique has basically reached the standard, and we are starting swordsmanship. He will teach the most basic techniques only, because the deeper work is born out of the breathing technique itself. The knight who taught him the breathing technique never taught him a matching swordsmanship, he explains. What he uses he built himself, perfecting it in blood on the Bohemia battlefield, and it fits him exactly and will not fit me at all. After I learn the breathing technique, he says, I will have to evolve my own out of these basics. The technique has guiding properties, so it will not be as hard as it sounds. I agree with every word of that. Swordsmanship gets taught only as far as fundamentals, and every real expert built the rest out of their own fights in their own body. What I do not mention is that with the chip I can run millions of simulated engagements a day. Once I have the breathing technique to work against, evolving my own style out of these basics is trivial. I tell him I will study hard, and he nods, picks up a wooden sword, and starts to demonstrate. Even the most basic training, he says, is difficult for an ordinary person to complete. Then he takes the sword in both hands. The air moves. Standing to the side, I feel the wash of it and my hair lifts, and that is a wooden practice sword swung by a broken old man. Truth grabs the data before I have to ask, and rolls out a readout on him. Old Green comes in at strength 1.7, speed 2.0, and physique somewhere between 0.7 and 1.5. The chip flags the injury explicitly. He sits at 0.7 ordinarily, can reach 1.5 in a combat state, and every second he sustains that state does permanent damage. Sitting next to my own numbers, that crushes me completely, and this is the damaged version of him. I read myself at strength 1.2, speed 1.3, physique 1.2. He is comprehensively above me, and the model I designed does not scale linearly. It climbs as a curve, so the further out you go, the more a gap of even 0.1 becomes a canyon. His speed of 2.0 is 3 or 4 times my running speed. We are not in the same conversation. I do not have time to marvel about it, because he has started explaining and I need to watch. These are the essentials of the chop, he says. Concentrate the whole body's strength into one place. The power originates in the feet, transforms through the waist, and arrives in the hands. Control the distance. Strike with the forward part of the blade to maximize the power. Theoretically, the tip does the most damage, and the tip also takes the most stress. And if the man you hit is wearing armor, the blade breaks, so use the section slightly back from the tip. Then he demonstrates, move by move, chopping, thrusting, horizontal slashing, upward lift, block, and evade. Every fundamental laid out one at a time. He is using a wooden sword, and the deterrence coming off him is still enormous, like watching a tiger work. Every motion carrying real intent to kill. Truth records all of it through my eyes, analyzes continuously, and starts mapping it onto my body. By the time the recording finishes, he has stopped and set the wooden sword aside. Did I memorize the movements, he asks. They are simple, and the standard has to be exact, because deformed movement damages muscle and joint, and leaves hidden injuries, and hidden injuries interfere with condensing the life seed. There is no room for error in it. I nod that I have them, and then I open the chip's interface, which tells me the action recording is complete, and asks me to name the data. Basic swordsmanship, I tell it, and the naming confirms. And what it has is Old Green's fundamentals, summarized and already matched to my body. I check it over, find nothing wrong, and tell him most of it is fine and I will demonstrate so he can look for problems. He does not believe for 1 second that I memorized that in a single pass. It took him more than 10 days to bring these movements up to standard when he learned them. He decides I am young and full of myself and that nothing bad can happen with him sitting right there. So he tells me to go ahead, wipes the melted snow off a stool, sits down, and waves me on. I pick the wooden sword up, weigh it, and I have to smile. The chip cannot make my movements perfect by itself, but I have trained for months, and between the chip's corrections and the flexibility work I have been doing at night, my body coordination is already very high. Basics like these only need a little repetition. I tell it to start movement correction on the chop. I raise the sword, and it immediately detects that my forearm and upper arm are at the wrong angle and reports a 20% loss of strength, which makes me grin because that is the entire point of having it. I adjust to what it wants and bring the sword down hard. Next repetition, it catches the instantaneous deformation, tells me the waist rotation is insufficient and the power transmission is impaired, and asks for 3% more amplitude through the waist. I keep adjusting. The deformation figure keeps dropping, and at some point, When the overall deformation drops under 3%, I feel the chop go all the way through me. The strength runs the whole length of my body in one clean line and arrives, and the sensation of it reaching my brain is enormously satisfying. Old Green has stopped moving on his stool. My first strokes were full of holes. A few chops later, those holes are closed, and the movement is at a very standard level. He is watching a boy do in minutes what took him weeks, and I think he is quietly reassessing his own first 40 years. By the time I have gone through the whole set, he is convinced he is looking at a top-tier swordsmanship talent. He gets up without saying anything and walks into the house, and I do not notice, because I am busy chasing that feeling. When I have run the whole set again, I check the numbers. Truth reports that basic swordsmanship exercises whole body muscle groups, and that 3,000 full-strength repetitions should give me plus 0.2 to strength, speed, and physique alike. 3,000 is not a lot. Full strength is the troublesome part because control degrades under maximum output and the deformation goes right back up. So I plan it. Practice the movements first until everyone succeeds cleanly, then add strength gradually until I can hold the form at full output. Then I start working through them. With Truth on board, I have close to complete knowledge of my own body, and anything weak gets found and fixed. As I keep cutting and my strength keeps climbing, the wooden sword stops making noise. The air barely stirs when it passes. That is the tell, because the blade only stops producing turbulence when the movement is genuinely correct and the edge is presenting the smallest possible surface to the air. Old Green makes an enormous racket when he swings, and that is purely because his numbers are so high that even perfect form moves that much air. I get further into it. The movements start to feel familiar in a way I trust, and I think even under real pressure my body would produce this. Truth stops reporting deformation entirely and starts tuning the transitions between movements instead. Which is where Old Green appears in front of me and interrupts. That is enough for today, he says, with something complicated in his face. Training further damages the body, and I should not be so hungry for fast results. Only then do I come out of it. My whole body is flushed and soaked, and more than half of what I am wearing is wet through in winter. Truth has not flagged a limit. I could keep going. I stop anyway. There is no need to hit the wall every single day, and Old Green is standing right there, so I put the sword down and go in with him to eat. That evening, I am at the desk in my room with a history of the Loading Kingdom open in front of me, and my eyes are not on the page. I ask Truth to summarize my current physical condition, and it reports strain in the right forearm, bruising on the left shoulder, fatigue through the lower back muscles, and elevated cellular activity throughout. Estimated repair time, 7 hours, which is a satisfying number, and it confirms something I have been noticing. This body's recovery runs well past the standard for an ordinary person. Given that this world has transcended power in it, unusual individuals are not exactly a shock, and whatever is buried in this boy's background, I am not planning to dig for it. Chasing that answer without power of my own is a good way to attract exactly the wrong attention. Once I have power, the question will answer itself. I confirm there are no hidden injuries, close the interface, put the book down, and open the window. Snow has piled up on the sill, and the cold comes through and clears my head, and at this physique it does not bother me at all. The world outside is silver under the moon, and completely silent, and standing in it I feel something close to peace. I am reaching to close the window when I see the fire. It is faint and it is completely wrong for that landscape, and every part of me goes alert at once. Firelight. On a night like this, it shows for a moment and then the snow swallows it. In case my eyes invented it, I pull up the chip's real-time recording and run it back and forth, and the fire is there. It happened. So I have Truth pull up the map of the barony, which is data I collected myself on my runs, with the wider country filled in from Old Green's books. A three-dimensional image builds in front of my eyes, and when I match the sighting against it, the fire was in the Annabelle Mountains, which makes it much worse. The Annabelle Range is sealed by heavy snow at this time of year, and nobody inside this barony would take that risk. That fire has no business existing. I shut the window and go find Old Green. Whatever else I am, I have been in this world a matter of months, and this is a moment for somebody who has actually lived here. I hammer on his door hard enough to wake him out of the edge of sleep, and tell him through it that I need to talk to him. He opens up immediately and asks what happened, and I tell him the whole thing from the beginning. He sits down on the edge of his bed, pulls a map out of the drawer beside him, and it turns out to be a detailed layout of the barony and the Annabelle Range. He asks whether I can mark the general location on it. I calculated the exact position 20 minutes ago, and I am not going to say so I put a finger on the map and give him a direction. On the map, the fire was on the outer flank of the Annabelle Mountains, near a river called the Nason, which is the same river that runs through this barony. Both of us arrive at the same conclusion at the same moment. If that was not an accident, somebody is preparing to move on this territory. It is very likely early reconnaissance, he says after a while, still studying the map. Heavy snow seals the mountains. Conditions in there are brutal, and breaking a castle in that weather is close to impossible. Neither of us takes any comfort from it. The peace here may be finished, and outside these walls the risk has just gone up sharply. Bring the cart out, he says finally. We are going to the castle. I have it out fast and drive it through the snow under the moon, and the castle is not far, so it takes under half an hourglass. There is a large watch on the wall. Between the towers and the torches they spot us well before we arrive. They recognize the flying eagle of the Crollo family and the general state of the vehicle carrying it, and they know whose cart this is. They still have jobs to do. A sentry calls down and asks Old Green what brings him here this late. Open the gate immediately and notify the Baron, Old Green says. He has important matters and he will speak them in person, and he offers nothing else. The men on the wall look at each other because they do not have the authority to go and wake the Baron. Under ordinary rules, only the captain of the guard can do that. Garrett is the squad leader on watch tonight, and the position is uncomfortable. Then he thinks about what Old Green is to the Baron and takes a breath. He tells the men beside him to open the door and goes to find the Baron himself. He gets a few steps and turns back to add that they should treat Old Green well and not let us get frostbitten. They promise him they will. The gate comes open and I drive us inside, and the guards walk us to the guard lounge. Please wait, one says. Our squad leader has gone to notify the Baron and will be back shortly. Then somebody brings 2 cups of steaming black tea over. Old Green takes his and drinks it slowly. I do not move at all, sitting with my eyes closed, thinking. The looks the guards give me have envy in them with a little jealousy at the bottom. My luck is offensive from where they stand. Orphaned, then picked up by Old Green and raised as his own blood, and now very likely to inherit a breathing technique. Men with no connections find that hard to watch. Garrett comes back with somebody behind him. It is Basil, the butler of Crollo Castle, who got here in a hurry and whose clothes are slightly out of order, and who is still holding himself together like a butler. He tells Old Green to come with him and see the Baron, without any small talk at all, and the two of them go. I wait in the lounge, and Old Green comes back alone before long, and his face is bad. I ask him what the Baron said, and he tells me peace here probably ends within the next 2 years. Years ago, there were rumors that the kingdom of Saladin had found a passage through the Annabelle Mountains that would put an army directly on the Lodin border. The odds seemed low enough that everybody filed it as a rumor. That fire makes it look real. The Baron is already sending guards to investigate, and there will be an answer soon. The guards standing nearby hear all of it, and their faces change too, because nobody in this room wants a war. A real battlefield kills people. While we are all sitting with that, Captain of the Guard Oz and the Baron move out together, taking a large body of guards with special torches, riding hard for the Annabelle Mountains. Under the moon, the silver-white armor throws off a cold light, and the killing intent coming off that column is the kind you can feel from the wall. Old Green and I do not leave the castle. Outside is not safe anymore, and going back to the warehouse would be stupid, so we wait for daylight before we retrieve anything. Basil arranges a guest room for us. I turn over most of that night. I was reckless in my last life, and it was reckless in method, and I have never once been near a war in the actual sense of the word. I do not get under until well past the middle of the night. I wake up badly, and it is not Old Green doing the waking. It is shouting coming from outside. The word I catch is kill, repeatedly, and I come up out of that bed looking for the exits. Old Green is already up and watching me do it, and he starts smiling. There is no war, he says. The castle soldiers are training. Then he points at the window and tells me to go look. I lean out. Down on the training ground, the snow has been cleared to bare yellow earth, and a large body of guards is drilling under a squad leader. He shouts the word and puts a longsword forward hard, and the men repeat it and repeat the motion. Their form is unpolished and their timing is loose, and they are loud, and there is real momentum in it. Between the shouting and the winter wind, whatever sleep was left in me goes. Watching them train, I want to be down there immediately, and Old Green reads it off my face without effort. No swordsmanship today, he says, because my body has not recovered. Archery first. He has been building my schedule off ordinary standards, because he does not know what my recovery actually looks like. Peace here is not going to last, and I need to move faster than this. So I walk over and quietly tell him about the recovery. The astonishment on his face is not something he manages to control. He examines me by eye and then by hand, going over me repeatedly, checking whether I am inventing this to get the breathing technique early because last night frightened me. Then he tells me I really am not an ordinary person, that my body has fully met the standard, and that this is fine because learning early means more security later. I do not manage to keep the excitement off my own face either. Training the breathing technique needs specific movements and a calm mind, he says, and I have been through too much in 2 days to be in the right state. Practice archery for a while. When I have recovered, he will teach me personally. I say I will go train and I go wash up in the next room, where the castle maids have already set everything out. Then Old Green walks me down to the training ground. I will not be training with the guards, because their methods are too rough and would leave me with hidden injuries. I train with the castle nobles, Baron Crow's children, and a handful of selected youngsters with potential. We go down the spiral stair. I got up late and the castle is full of maids moving about, preparing the morning for the noble children. And every one of them stops what she is doing to greet us respectfully. Basil selects these maids himself and it shows. There is not a rude or spiteful servant in this building. We nod them back to work and go out through the guest lodging. Old Green finds a guard squad leader, hands me off, and turns to go get the cart, meaning to bring some things over from the warehouse. Follow the squad leader, he tells me. He will take you to the training ground. I watch him leave with 2 castle guards trailing him, confirm he is covered, and let it go. Then I turn around and find that the squad leader is Garant from last night. He is in a gray-white top and gray-black trousers with a middle-aged man's weathered face, and he is built like a door, and nothing about him invites trouble. I thank him for going to the trouble, which he waves off. No need to be polite, young Master Green, he says, because Old Green's status in this barony makes me something like a hidden noble, and some people address me that way. I do not correct him because it would accomplish nothing. The hierarchy in a place like this is not a suggestion, and correcting a man about it only embarrasses him. He walks me into the central area. The castle is circular, and the middle of it is the largest open ground in the building, and there is a substantial group of boys and girls training on it. It is not noon yet, so most of the ground is still cool, and the snow here is gone entirely, cleaned off thoroughly. The ground is a circle with a running track around the outside and equipment set up through the middle. Teenagers about my age are working. Most have wooden swords. A few have matched wooden bows and are shooting at targets dozens of meters out. Nobody is directing any of it. Garant sees me looking and explains. The instructor is normally captain of the Gardos and given last night, today is self-directed. I say I understand and that I will train on my own, since Old Green set me a task. Old Green is a veteran off a real battlefield, Garant says, and his experience is worth more than ours, so I should follow his arrangements. He has a lot of respect in his voice and he does not interfere. I head for the archery area, and the moment I step onto that ground, I have everybody's attention. This training ground is reserved for noble children and selected talent, so the roster almost never changes, and a new face is an event. I do not live inside the castle, and that does not mean people here do not know me. Old Green's position guarantees I am not obscure, and the people who know me are the senior children in this building. Before I arrived in this body, Green came up to the castle regularly for gatherings. Lately he is not, because the personality that came out of the soul fusion has been busy training, and Old Green handled everything else. So the surprise on all these faces is genuine. Everybody here knows I am getting private instruction from Old Green, and every one of them is noble-born, and every one of them is envious anyway. Not all noble children get to learn a breathing technique. They have to pass strict testing, and the ones who fail get married off as political instruments. My situation is different. I am close to guaranteed to inherit one. Even if I never make official knight apprentice is not in doubt, and that alone fixes my status in this barony for life. Somebody asks whether Brother Green is training with them from today, and the voice is young and bright. I look over, and the memory arrives with the face. Her name is Asheville, Baron Crow's third daughter, a year younger than me, and because the Baron respects Old Green, she has always called me brother. She is the Baron's daughter, and her standing is not high, because her mother was a commoner the Baron took a liking to, and the castle does not value her much. She never wants for food or clothing, and she has an allowance. She will eventually be married off to some other noble as a piece of a political arrangement, and whether her life after that is comfortable is luck. Her mother's side has no power. Once she is married, everything depends on her husband's temper and she gets no say in any of it. Long time no see, Asheville, I tell her, and I mean it warmly, because Green got on well with everybody in this castle, and particularly with her. She has heard I have been training non-stop, and she asks straight out whether I am going to inherit Old Green's breathing technique, and her eyes are full of envy. I do not bother hiding it. I tell her Old Green is passing the technique to me soon, and this is my final preparation. Once I have it, my physical condition changes so drastically and my food intake climbs so far that concealment is not an option anyway. Then, Brother Green, she says, once you learn it, will you show us what it does? We are not old enough yet, and we still have to wait. And she comes over and takes my hand while she asks, which stops me because I did not expect it, and I am fairly sure it is not a thing a girl of this age does casually here. I get my hand back out of hers without making it a moment and put my head back on straight. Then I tell her that is not a problem, and that I will absolutely demonstrate it. Then I take 2 steps at a time to the archery line, pick up a bow, and put my attention into the targets. I was a bachelor my entire last life, and I am not equipped for this. I tell Truth to activate action assistance, and a blue projection comes up over my vision and I start adjusting my stance to match it. For archery specifically, the chip is close to unfair. It locks the target and computes the solution, and that is simply cheating. It tells me to raise the bow 3 degrees to hit the center. The arrow goes, and it goes straight into the center of the target, Every teenager on that ground who is pretending not to watch me looks over. Asheville tells me I shoot so accurately and offers to hand me the arrows. She comes back to my side and starts feeding them to me with both hands. And given how well the two of them always got on, refusing would be unkind, so I let her, which she takes as a victory. She straightens up and sweeps a look around the other girls on that ground with an expression that is staking a claim, and that lands about how you would expect. I am, apparently, one of the 3 most eligible young men in Baron Crow's barony. A great many girls here would like to marry me, so Asheville planting a flag in public does not go over quietly. Compared to the other 2, I am also much easier to reach. Win Old Green's approval and the rest could follow. The other 2 are Crow Khan and Okart. Crow Khan is Baron Crow's eldest son, fed the Baron's own life power since he was small, which let him start the breathing technique early. He is close to breaking through to Knight Apprentice, and barring accidents he becomes a knight and inherits the whole barony. Okart is the eldest son of Captain of the Guard Os, who is one of only 2 knights in this territory. Os broke through late and had no surplus life force to feed his son, so Okarte waits for adulthood like any other noble child. He was born after his father broke through, which made him naturally robust, and well past his peers, and his odds of making knight are excellent. And then there is me. Against those 2 I have no advantages whatsoever, and one guarantee, which is that I will inherit a breathing technique. So the high-status daughters chase Crow Khan and Okart. The lower-status ones look at me. I carry no burdens and my life is going to be comfortable, and for a girl who is not qualified to chase power, I am the best available option. And if I do break through tonight, my position here changes completely. Everyone within earshot heard Asheville and me, so the news that I am about to learn the breathing technique is now general knowledge. And then a good number of them do the second piece of arithmetic. I am still a year short of the age. Given how Old Green treats me, he would never let me take the early risk. Which means that in Old Green's judgment my body has already met the standard. That conclusion turns even the high-status daughters around. Studying early means the odds of a breakthrough are far past normal, and I am no longer someone they can treat the way they did last year. I ignore all of it and train, arrow after arrow, hour after hour. My form starts loose and the chip tightens it, and the hit rate climbs until all 3 targets are bristling. Asheville stands beside me loading the quiver, and at some point she stops loading it, because she has gotten absorbed in watching. I reach back and find nothing there, and that snaps me out of it, and she notices me notice and hurriedly puts the arrows in. I go back to shooting and put it out of my mind. After the 100th arrow I stop, because truth has started warning me that continuing risks muscle damage, and damaged muscle is the last thing I need with a life seed to condense. I look around and almost everybody has cleared out. There are 2 or 3 left besides Asheville and me, which is Asheville's cue. She points out that I must be starving after training this long, and invites me to eat with her. I do not refuse, mostly on logistics. There are 3 places to eat in this castle. I am not qualified for the Baron's family table, though Old Green might be. The guard's mess is bad. The noble children's dining room is the correct answer. She takes my hand and starts toward it, delighted, and the 2 girls still on the field cut across in front of us. One of them says it has been a long time, and asks whether I will eat with them. I pull their files while they wait, and the names come back as Layla and Mia. Layla is Baron Crow's 4th daughter in a situation identical to Asheville's. Mia is a step below that again, a distant relation who came to shelter with Baron Crow after her family declined. Inside the castle, her mother is the head maid who directs the other maids, some authority and still a servant. Mia will most likely end up married to a young squad leader or some promising man in the guard. Mia presents as quiet and slightly lost in a way that invites people to look after her, and I do not buy it for a second. Anyone who can team up with Layla and cut off Asheville in public is not the naive creature she is playing. Layla and Mia, I say, Asheville and I are going to eat, and since you want to come, we can all go together. Asheville's face darkens, and then recovers, because she wants to perform well in front of me. Since Brother Green has agreed, she says sweetly, let us all go. So a party of 2 becomes a party of 4, arranged around me, and the atmosphere gets complicated. The table in front of me holds foie gras, spiced stewed meat, truffles, an assortment of expensive things I do not recognize, and meats I have never seen in my life. I look at my 3 companions, because even in a noble dining room, this is not normal. Ordinarily, it is white bread and some stew. Somebody paid a real price for this spread, and I would like to know whether that was their own decision or an instruction from somebody's mother. The room is quiet by custom, since noble etiquette wants silence at a table, and this particular crowd came straight off the training ground and is not observing it strictly. I am the only person in here who is genuinely eating. Asheville, Layla, and Maya are each running their own calculations, and the other tables have their attention aimed at ours, because everybody loves gossip and nobles are not an exception. They are laying odds. Somebody says Maya has no chance because her background is poor. Somebody says Asheville is the likeliest, given how close she is sitting. And then somebody points out that with potential like mine, the Baron might simply marry Lilith to me, which changes the temperature at my table immediately. Lilith is Baron Crow's eldest daughter, and her standing has nothing in common with anyone else's. If the Baron decides to hand Lilith down to me, none of the three of them are in the running at all. That is where the awkwardness sits when a commotion comes up from the castle gates. The Baron and the captain of the guard are back from the Annabelle Mountains with their column. Every head in the dining hall turns, and most of the nobles put down their knives and go for the doors. What those two men brought back decides whether there is a war on this land. If not, everyone keeps living. If so, this castle changes. Let us go and see, I say, and I am wiping my mouth and out of my chair before any of the three can answer. They look at each other and then follow me out. Baron Crow and Os go straight up and summon the castle's nobles to the top floor of the central building. The guards who rode with them stay put, waiting on orders, and every one of them is under a gag order until the Baron says otherwise. Nothing is coming out of the guards, so I say goodbye to the three and go back to the guest room. The three of them have worked out that something is wrong too, and they peel off to go ask their own mothers. As I expected, Old Green is not in the room when I get there. Other people might not know it. I do. Old Green is nothing like as frail as he looks, and Baron Crow, who owns this castle, knows it perfectly well. If a war really is coming, Old Green is a significant piece of combat power. He would have collected our things from the warehouse hours ago, so his absence now means the Baron sent for him. So I wait for him, and eventually the door scrapes open and I turn around. Old Green comes in wearing something grim that he puts away when he sees me, replacing it with a smile that does not fool anybody. I ask him directly what happened, and he does not answer straight off. He crosses to his bed, sits, thinks about it, and then looks at me squarely. The situation is not good, he says. Where I saw the fire, the Baron's party found a large number of footprints and abandoned military supplies. It was almost certainly a Saladin scouting party. The room goes quiet for a while after that, and then he tells me not to worry, because war should not break this year or next, and probably not until the year after that. Saladin has not fully mapped the passage yet, and the Lord-grade beasts living in the Annabelle Mountains are an enormous problem for anything trying to march through. By the time that scouting party was found, he says, judging by what they left behind, they had already lost at least 2/3 of their men, and scouting parties are usually the elite of an army. If the elite lose that heavily, an ordinary army will find that crossing far worse. So we have a window, and the passage might not even come out inside this barony. Which is a relief, because time is the only thing I actually need. Rest these few days, he says. In a few days I will pass on the breathing technique. I agree, and for the days after that I barely leave my room except to eat. 10 days later, Old Green takes me out of the castle and back to a hidden cellar under the warehouse, a room he dug out himself a long time ago and told nobody about. It is sealed apart from a ventilation shaft, and the only light in it is an oil lamp. The breathing technique, he tells me, is a method of condensing life. Through specific movements and specific breathing, you compress your own life into a seed, and once that seed forms, your life changes in kind, and you hold power that ordinary people cannot approach. For a knight apprentice, he says, the condensation has to happen in one continuous run. If it fails, the difficulty of a second attempt goes up enormously, so it has to be done at the peak of my condition, and I should settle myself first, while he explains the method. I go serious with him, sit down cross-legged, and start breathing. I ask Truth for a full check on my physical state, plus spiritual and mental fluctuation. The report comes back good. My physical condition is sound, and through hypnotic suggestion my adrenaline reserves are at maximum. Spiritual and mental fluctuation is stable, emotional interference is low, and will is normal. Old Green would not lie to me, so one continuous run means one continuous run. I pull my attributes, strength 1.3, speed 1.4, physique 1.3. The conditioning has moved all three, and that matters because condensing a life seed depends heavily on the body's durability. With a physique this far past ordinary, my odds are excellent. After 10 minutes cross-legged, I am satisfied I am at the top of what this body can do. I open my eyes, look at him, and nod. He starts to say something and swallows it. Then he pulls a book out of his shirt. The cover has gone yellow with black marks across it, and it is obviously old, and it is thin, maybe a dozen pages. Memorize the movements, he says. Follow the requirements exactly, and make no mistakes. I take it and read it through. The title on the cover is The Storm Breathing Technique, and the pages inside are handwritten. By the introduction inside, different breathing techniques do different things. Some emphasize life, some emphasize burst, some emphasize endurance. This one is stranger than that, because the storm breathing technique has no specialization at all. What it pursues is a higher ceiling. Whoever made it was going for the effect of a tornado. As a user breaks through the tiers, their conversion of external energy keeps climbing, and they end up carrying power far past their own rank. It is extremely powerful, and the flaw is proportional. A tornado has an eye, and so does this. Every breakthrough a storm-breathing user makes is a cocoon and butterfly proposition. You come out or you die. I finish the book and look up at him, and he meets my eyes and gives me a crooked, unhappy smile. Back then, he says, his injuries were so bad that he burned an enormous amount of life to stay alive, and the life seed took damage that never reversed. It was not a forced breakthrough that did it. The storm-breathing technique is powerful, he says, and every breakthrough is a bet with your life on the table. Other techniques are far gentler. Apart from the apprentice's initial condensation, failing with those does not threaten your life, and the worst outcome is being stuck where you are forever. If I am unwilling, he says, he can go to the Baron and trade the storm-breathing technique for the Baron's ancestral one. He looks miserable saying it, because he does not want me anywhere near this thing. No need, I tell him. I will take the storm-breathing. And I look down at that thin yellow book and I can feel my own face doing something slightly unhinged. In my last life, I let people put a chip in my brain at unknown odds to get past being human. This technique at least offers a path where success is possible. I do not discuss it further. I take the first position. He backs to the wall carefully because there can be no disturbance now, and anything that breaks my state very likely ends this badly. I start the movements and start controlling my breath, and between one inhale and the next I can feel a strange resonance beginning inside me, with the energy in my body converging toward my heart. Truth is already reading the whole thing. It reports detecting an abnormal flow of body energy and asks whether to intervene, which nearly makes me laugh out loud, because if the chip can interfere with the process, my odds go somewhere very good. I tell it to build the energy circulation model immediately, switch the auxiliary functions on, and assist the flow. My eyes are closed and the blue interface is acting directly on my nerves, so I see it anyway. A human model builds itself with flow lines on it. As I breathe and shift through the positions, energy nodes form one after another through my body. Those nodes pull in the energy around them, which is my own life. That converged life runs to my heart, and my heart becomes the circulation center. The energy goes out into my blood and travels with it, while the vibration of the breathing technique remodels my body a piece at a time. I tell truth to interfere with the flow and reduce the loss, because I can see it on the model. A portion of that energy is not being captured by the resonance at all. It is dissipating out of my body, and as the technique progresses, the leak gets worse. That is why people fail. Too much dissipation means the remodeling never completes, and the effort is wasted, and an enormous amount of life goes with it, and the seed never takes shape. Of course, it has to be done in one run. After losing that much life, expecting a second attempt to work is a fantasy. With the chip on it, the flow smooths out completely. Not a trace of obstruction anywhere. Centered on my heart, whatever life is left after the remodeling begins turning into an enormous spiral, which is the part that makes the storm-breathing technique different from everything else. I know the critical moment has arrived, so I put every bit of the chip's computing power into managing the formation of the life seed. As the spiral in my heart takes shape, I can feel it start pulling energy in from outside me. And that outside energy is not like my own. Some of it is scorching, some is cold and unpleasant, and some is heavy and dense. My body refuses none of it, and through that tornado of life, the energy and the flesh begin combining properly. Truth has already sorted it, and without any reference spectrum to work from it, has bluntly filed the incoming energies as Type A, Type B, Type C, and colored them accordingly. The model in front of me was blue, and is now a great many colors, and all of it is inside me. Under the chip's control, a life tornado that can normally be held for 10 minutes gets forced out to 30. Somewhere around the 20th minute, my body starts reporting that it is full. It cannot take more. What comes in past that point simply drifts back out again. I am not wasting an opportunity like this, so I keep the chip working the flow and let the external energy keep scouring through me. By the model, the marginal gain is very small. My body is at its limit, and at the limit, small is enormous. Across the room, Old Green has stopped functioning. At the 11th minute, he knew something was wrong, because by every rule he knows the remodeling should have finished. What he did not expect was 30 minutes. What kind of life force is that, he is thinking, to hold a life tornado open that long? He knows the storm-breathing technique well enough to know that the tornado is fed by nothing but your own life. At 30 minutes, it finally closes, and the life seed has taken in everything it is going to. A round seed forms slowly in my heart, which is a genuinely strange sensation. The heart is obviously inside me, and I can simply feel that seed sitting in it. I go quiet and reach for it. It gives off nothing at all, like a glass marble. By the book, breaking through to official night means activating this seed and making it breathe, connecting the energy channels between inside and outside, and multiplying destructive power. For me, freshly through, the seed has formed and the interior has not solidified, and that takes time. The other requirement, the body reaching its limit, I have already handled, because the external energy pushed me to the ceiling of a knight apprentice. Another 2 or 3 months and I can be an official knight. Also, I note, breaking through to official knight sounds a great deal like the old martial arts novels I used to read. The hero connects the bridges between heaven and earth and becomes more than human. I file that complaint and check the interface. Strength reads 2.5, speed 2.7, and physique 3.0. All of it has moved enormously, and physique has moved furthest by a wide margin. Between the chip's energy management and almost zero waste of my life, the effective gain here is far past what any other breathing technique would have produced. I open my eyes, and Old Green is on me instantly with his hands going over my body. He asks whether I am all right and whether the condensation succeeded, because what he watched was strange enough to frighten him. I take his hand and tell him that I am fine. I have condensed the life seed and I am a knight apprentice. He lets out a breath that sounds like it has been in there for half an hour and says it is good, twice. When he is settled, I walk him out of the cellar. Pushing the warehouse door open, I look at snow that has started melting and know that whatever I was when I got here, I am not that anymore. I do not go back to the castle right away because I want to know what I can actually do, and Old Green is not going to stop me. My promotion is a serious event for the whole barony, so he takes the cart back to arrange a feast. Once he is gone, I go to the warehouse with the key I borrowed off him. There are training targets inside. The cleanest way to measure strength is archery, because in any era archers are the elite, and a man without strength cannot even draw the bow. I haul the targets out and set them at 100 paces, 300, 600, and 1000. An adult stride runs about 75 centimeters, so that is 75 meters, 225, 450, and 750. I plant them and step back. By the arithmetic I did in my last life, the most famous archery shots in the old histories ran somewhere between 1 and 200 meters, which would make me worth several of those legends at once. I pick up the bow and arrows I brought out earlier, which are standard guard issue I collected from the castle before the breakthrough. Guard bows are wood, because without an extraordinary physique nobody draws a metal bow. And even so, guards in a world with transcendent power are physically far past the elite soldiers of my last life. The special wood still has weight in it, and in my hands it feels like a toy. This will do, I decide. I am only measuring destructive output. The storm-breathing technique gave me an enormous base increase, and the chip's intervention took me straight to the physical ceiling of a knight apprentice. Standard guard equipment is already beneath me. There are 15 arrows in the quiver. I hold my breath, draw to full extension, and put the blue projection on the target. The string goes and the white-fledged arrow leaves, and it hits the target at 100 paces, and it does not stop there. It goes through the entire target, keeps flying another dozen meters, and buries itself halfway into the ground, which is deeply satisfying. After all those months, I can finally see what I bought with them, and what I bought is the ability to keep myself alive in a dangerous place. So I keep going, and with the chip riding along, I do not miss. Every arrow lands center, and at 1,000 paces, I am still landing every arrow. And in the middle of that, the air ripples faintly and truth cuts in. It reports an unknown heat source approaching, tells me to prepare for combat immediately, and activates combat assistance. My grip tightens on the bow, because I have never trusted the outside world and I am not about to start. I do not visibly react to any of it. By the chip's read, the heat source is in the forest to the right of the warehouse and still a considerable distance off, which makes a surprise attack difficult. The thing to watch is anything that flies. Truth clarifies that it is a humanoid, and then that it is specifically a human. Spring is only just starting, and the melting snow is eating heat out of everything, which keeps the forest cold. And against that cold, a human body is extremely conspicuous on thermal. I feel the quiver quietly and find 5 arrows left. Then I pick up the longsword I set nearby and walk toward the targets like a man going to collect his shots. I look calm. My scalp is crawling, and there is something happening in my chest that I have never felt before. Truth flags the adrenaline spike and reports internal energy activity rising. I can feel the power moving into place, ready for a crisis, and I would still very much prefer to avoid one. I have no combat experience and almost no information about who that is, and picking a fight from here is a poor trade. Better to be careful about this one. Then it detects an incoming thrown object and tells me to roll forward immediately. The warning goes through my temples like something sharp is coming out through them, and I do not think about it at all. I lunge forward the way the chip says. Something heavy hits the ground where I was standing, and the dirt comes up, and some of it lands on my face. The man who threw it makes a puzzled noise, apparently surprised I moved. Lying on the ground, having just not died, I get a wave of adrenaline that takes the fear out and replaces it with rage. Nearly losing my life burns straight through the animal part of my brain and comes out the other side furious. So I roll over, knock an arrow, and let the chip lock him for me. The arrow goes out with everything I have behind it, and at that speed the man on the other end has no time to do anything about it. There is the sound an arrow makes going into a person, and truth confirms the target is injured. I do not hesitate. 3 more arrows in quick succession, and with the chip's computation and its near radiographic thermal read, Those three completely close off his escape lanes. Zeke, whoever Zeke is swearing inside his own head and asking what kind of monster this is. My first counter went into him before he had even exposed himself, and being located and answered that fast has already put fear into him. Watching 3 arrows arrive at the only places he can go, he hears the Reaper clearly, and his blood goes cold. He reaches into his shirt without deliberating, pulls out a pale green bead, and crushes it. A translucent white barrier appears, and my 3 arrows slam into it. The barrier lasts an instant and then it is gone, and the instant was all he needed. He clamps his right hand over his injured left arm and runs, out of the arrow lanes and into the Annabelle Mountains, without once looking back. I do not chase him into the trees. If he set an ambush or brought friends, then a man with no combat experience going into a forest after him is a man donating his life. I watch the thermal until I am sure he is gone, and then I sit down on the ground rather harder than I meant to. My mind stays blank a while. When it comes back, I look at my own hands shaking and feel how tired I am, and every bit of the arrogance that came with getting strong has gone somewhere else. I get up slowly and breathe until the shaking stops, and then I go look at the pit. The thing that nearly killed me is a large iron dart with stabilizing fins on it. I cut a corner off my clothes with the longsword and wrap it before I pick it up. I do not know whether it is poisoned, and I am not finding out with my fingers. Examining it closely, I find a line of small characters along the tail fins. Zeke, 1st Reconnaissance Squad, 1st Legion of Saladin. They did not even bother disguising the thing, so now I know exactly who attacked me. Saladin killing people of the Loden Kingdom is entirely ordinary, and I am visibly a knight apprentice, which means killing me is worth real military merit, which explains why he did not hesitate. I get to complain about my luck for exactly 1 sentence before the seriousness of it lands. The war is closer than anybody said. Peace here is not going to last much longer. I pocket the dart and walk toward the tree line. In that entire exchange, I never saw his face or his build, and everything I have came off the chip's thermal imaging, and I still want to know how he got away. By the recording, the arrows appear to have been stopped by something before they reached him. I hack through the brush of the tree line with a longsword and work my way to where the throw came from. His last strike landed on the ground beside me, which means he was throwing from height, so I look up at the large tree in front of me. At this physique, getting into it is easy. I search a long time and satisfy myself that he attacked on impulse, because a tree branch restricts movement badly and is a poor place to start something. It gets you counter-killed, which is very nearly what my 3-arrow volley did to him. What I cannot find is any explanation of how those arrows got stopped. I get to the spot he threw from, reconstruct the whole exchange, and confirm my 3 arrows genuinely had him locked. And then Truth speaks up, reporting a high-energy substance and telling me to harvest immediately. I bend down and find scattered green powder in the leaf litter. It reports a large quantity of vitality crystals, warns that the vitality is dissipating, and asks whether to absorb. I tell it to absorb immediately, and the green powder vanishes, and a warm current comes into me slowly, and I make a noise I am not proud of. Strength, 2.6. Speed, 2.8. Physique, 3.1. 0.1 on all 3, which is not a small thing at all. My physique was already at the ceiling of what a knight apprentice can hold, and my scale is not linear. Those 3 increments make me at least 30% stronger than I was 10 minutes ago. Once I am sure there is nothing else useful out there, I go back to the castle at speed to tell Old Green. Some distance away, Zeke finally stops running. He has been going flat out for close to half an hourglass. In a dense stand of forest, he checks behind him, satisfies himself that nobody followed, and puts his back against a thick tree and breathes like a dying animal. Running that hard for that long is enough to make even a knight apprentice feel his lungs coming apart, and his throat has gone to blood and copper. His heart is going like something being beaten, and every breath costs him. Exhausted as he is, he makes himself look at his left upper arm, where the arrow went through. Remembering those arrows coming after him like a debt collector puts a fresh chill into him. If it were not for the life shield the commander gave him, he thinks, he would have died on that field. The boy's archery is not natural. He eases his right hand off the wound, and the blood comes out of it like a tap opening. He clamped that hand down the instant he was hit, specifically so he would not leave a trail. Now he drags a medicine pouch out of his shirt, gets it open with a hand that will not hold still, and pours yellow powder evenly into the wound. The pain of that arrives immediately and stands every vein in his body up. The powder works fast, the bleeding comes under control, and the wound starts closing into a scab. That hemostatic powder is genuinely good, he thinks. Those apothecaries do produce useful things, and the price on them is obscene. Effective as it is, the wound is too large and he needs to get back and have it stitched. He tears a strip off his clothes and binds the arm roughly. Then he takes hold of it again and pushes deeper into the Annabelle Mountains, because only somewhere safe can he treat this properly. Back at the castle, they are already preparing to celebrate me. Old Green could not wait. The moment he got back, he told everyone I had made knight apprentice, and the entire building went up. In all of Baron Crow's barony, there are two openly acknowledged knight-level powers, the Baron himself and Captain of the Gardos. Old Green has never been counted, partly because of the damage to his life seed. Mostly it is that he keeps his head down so thoroughly nobody in that castle knows he still has power in him. Baron Crow is a new noble and does not have a single knight apprentice under his command. Besides Crowcon and Okart, I am the only person here able to learn a breathing technique. By everyone's reckoning, of the three of us I had the worst hand. No Night Father to feed me life energy, no exceptional body. And I got there first. Which means that within this entire barony my strength now ranks in the top 3. And nobody has to be told what that is worth to a territory this size. The maids are drowning in work. The banquet hall is being hung with tapestries and blankets embroidered with the soaring eagle of the Crollo family. And the kitchens are already going. The guards spot me coming from the wall and have the gates open before I arrive, ready to welcome their new knight apprentice. And I could not care less about any of it right now. I turn away everyone who comes to congratulate me and go straight to Old Green. "What happened that has you looking for me like this?" he asks, because he has been watching my behavior all day and none of it has been normal. I take the racked dart out of my shirt and give him the whole story. He asks whether I am all right, and his face has gone completely. "I am fine," I tell him. "I reacted in time and I was not hurt, and I think I put an arrow in him." Then I ask what this other thing is, and pull out the cloth with the green powder in it. That, he says, is a great knight's life shield, which means the man who attacked me holds a high position in Saladin. He examines the powder carefully and explains, "A great knight can form a shield out of life force. There are special materials which once processed will accept a great knight's life force, and an object made of those materials can be triggered to briefly put that shield around whoever is carrying it." That is what the man used. The green powder is the medium the life force was stored in, which explains how 3 arrows that had him dead to rights did not have him at all. "The enemy is attacking openly now," Old Green says. "We will not get the year after next. By autumn at the latest they will move at scale," and then he asks me what I intend to do, and he does not blink while he asks it. I look at the floor for a while, because I know exactly what he wants. He wants me out of this barony. Enemy scouts are already at the edge of this territory, and even if this place is not the main battlefield, it is very likely on the road to wherever the main battlefield is. Staying is not smart. As a knight apprentice, I have the standing to make my own choice. I am not sworn to this castle and I owe it no death. So instead of answering, I ask him whether he will leave with me. He does not say anything and the silence is the whole answer. Then if you do not leave, I tell him, I do not leave. And if it truly goes bad, I promise I will run by myself. He starts to argue and then stops, because a knight apprentice who has decided to run is very difficult to catch, and he knows it. The only thing keeping me in this barony is me, and he knows it. He sighs from somewhere deep and says, "Fine. Then, and to get ready, because I am the guest of honor tonight." Then he opens a cabinet and puts a tailcoat in my hands. I take it into the next room and put it on. On the pure logic of abandoning this castle and walking out of the barony, I agree with him completely. I simply cannot leave the man behind. I am the product of a fusion, not a devouring. Both sets of memory and both sets of feeling combined into whoever is currently wearing this face. Even setting aside what the original Green felt for this man, the care and the unreserved teaching I have personally received from him over these months make walking away impossible. There is a genuine streak of madness in my nature. I am not ungrateful. So since he will not leave, I stay with him. And when this barony is finally breached, I will find a way out. And I have a little more time before then, and in that time I get stronger again. I check the model. Strength 2.6, speed 2.8, physique 3.1, and life seed solidification at 1%. Once that solidification finishes, I activate the seed and advance to official knight. By the way, power is distributed in this world. A great knight is already the top of a country, and paladins have never openly appeared anywhere on this continent. Great knights are needed to anchor armies and do not commit lightly, and an official knight at my own tier is never going to match somebody running the storm breathing technique. By the chip's analysis, my odds of surviving what is coming are very high. The preparation starts now though. Tomorrow I begin scouting the surrounding country and designing an escape route, and I need more ways to hurt people, so I am going to look into poison. If those arrows had been poisoned today, Zeke's chances of walking away drop through the floor. The banquet is enormous, and everybody in it is thinking about something other than the food. The hall is decorated past the point of restraint, and the candles have it blazing, and the light keeps moving so that even the shadows on the walls look like they are dancing. The chefs have outdone themselves. There are towers built out of goblets full of red wine, and something faintly aggressive coming off the whole arrangement. Asheville's mother, and Layla's, and Maya's have each quietly taken their daughter aside for instructions about getting closer to me tonight and making an impression. Somebody bellows that Green has arrived, and the whole room stands and turns toward the door. I come in wearing the tailcoat with a smile on, nod to the room, and say the expected thing. I welcome everyone to my promotion celebration. I am glad of the attention, and I thank Baron Crow for supporting the banquet. Then I raise a glass, and the room finds its own glasses, and when the moment is right, I put mine down in one swallow and the room follows me. The banquet is officially open, I tell them. Enjoy the food and the music. The orchestra starts something brisk, and the room goes back to being a room. I have barely set the glass down when Asheville is at my elbow asking me to dance. Smiling up at me in a sky blue dress she has clearly chosen with care. There is a version of this evening where I say no. Looking at how much thought went into her being here, I do not have it in me. Of course I tell her, and put a hand out, and she takes it delightedly and we dance. When it ends, I let go quickly because she spent the entire dance running the tempo and I spent it several steps behind. If I had not broken through to Knight Apprentice and gained precise control over my own muscles and my own reactions, I would have embarrassed myself thoroughly. I have no experience whatsoever with this kind of thing, and from the first bar she had the initiative and kept it. The chip is the only reason I clawed any of it back in the second half. That dance was considerably more work than Zeke was. I had just gotten my hand off her waist and started thinking about sitting down when Layla and Mia arrive. Both of them have been watching since Asheville made the first move, and both of them have been regretting the delay ever since. They had to stand there and watch the two of us finish a dance, and with more girls drifting toward this corner of the room by the minute, both of them are visibly getting a headache about the competition. I am already looking for an exit when the exit arrives. A voice at my shoulder informs young Master Green that Lord Baron requests him. Basil has materialized at my shoulder the way butlers do, and I have been handed a reason to leave. I take it immediately and tell him to take me to the Baron. The girls in that corner watch me get called away and their faces do not hide much. Asheville is the exception. She is the only person in this entire banquet who got a dance out of me, which puts her well ahead of the field. She scans the room with a small triumphant look on the way past. Basil takes me to the top floor and the Baron's private room, stops in front of a heavy door, tells me respectfully that Lord Baron is waiting inside, opens it, and steps aside. I glance at him and walk in, and the first thing the room communicates is restraint. There is very little decoration. Bookshelves and a desk on either side, an enormous Crollo family emblem directly opposite the door, and in the middle 2 chairs and a table. Baron Crow is in one of the chairs. Oss is standing beside him like something carved, and the muscle on that man is a statement. Baron Crow is built more reasonably than that, proportioned rather than exaggerated. He points at the other chair and I sit down without any performance about it. I have truth and a visual analysis on both of them. Data starts pouring down my vision. Since the breakthrough, my body has changed and the chip's detection has improved with it, running off my own perception plus its built-in methods. I no longer need a large dataset on somebody the way I did with Old Green. I can read a person by looking at them. Baron Crow comes back at strength between 2.5 and 2.7, speed between 2.4 and 2.8, and physique between 2.4 and 2.6. Oss reads strength 3.0 to 3.2, speed 1.7 to 1.9, physique 2.6 to 2.8, which is uncomfortably close to my own numbers. The Baron leans all round like me, and Oss is a strength build made for meeting things head on. So the 30-minute physique enhancement really did take me to the ceiling. 2 veteran official knights cannot crush me on attributes, and in a straight encounter, with the archery I have, I might comfortably crush one of them. As soon as I am seated, the Baron asks whether I am willing to serve as castle instructor and take charge of the training ground, which is not a small offer, and I sit with it for a moment. Then I tell him about the attack, and I give him a reason. I tell the Baron that the attack made me understand this whole environment may not be safe, and that my strength is not yet enough. I need to improve as fast as possible and I have no desire to be that close to dying a second time. So for the coming period I am going to put everything into training, and taking the instructor's post would divide my attention. I ask him to forgive me for declining. He looks at me and reads the firmness in it, and also the fear, and does not push. Then train wholeheartedly, he says. If I ever want a position, I should come to him and he will find me a suitable one. I thank him properly and promise that when my strength is where it needs to be, I will come and ask. We talk about castle matters for a while and then I take my leave. Once the door is shut, Oss stops being furniture and drops into the chair I just left. Old Green's adopted son is not simple, he says, with real appreciation in it. Facing 2 official knights and he showed no fear at all. Very impressive, the Baron agrees. He says he had the breathing of his life seed fully released, and the boy did not react in the slightest. Then Oss asks the real question, which is whether I actually declined the instructor post because of the attack. The Baron does not answer him directly. It does not matter, he says. Old Green is here, so Green does not leave this territory. Saladin is very likely to come through it, and Green has significant combat power, so we do not need to worry about small things. Oss agrees with that and lets the question go. Out in the corridor I know perfectly well I have just been courted. I stay here because of Old Green. Nobody else in this castle has that kind of claim on me, As for the life seed pressure the Baron so carefully applied, whatever I am now is strong enough that I did not feel a thing. If truth had not flagged an energy resonance, I would never have known either of them was pushing on me at all. Being too strong is its own problem, apparently. The subtle senses go dull. I do not go back to the banquet. I go straight to my room instead, because a great many things happened today and I would like to sleep through some of them. Over the next few days I ask Basil to collect poison for me, and the castle's butler does not ask a single question about why. He simply promises to find it as fast as he can. All I actually have to do now is wait for the life seed to solidify, so there is no point grinding through meaningless training. Instead, I go back to my original profession. In my last life, I was a scientist with a reckless streak, and when I arrived here, I put that away and chased power first out of necessity. Now that I can defend myself, I would like to start chasing the other thing, not simply what power is, why it is. My standing in this castle lets me walk in and out of the study whenever I please. I record every book in there into the chip in an afternoon, and then set truth loose on all of it at once. The verdict is not encouraging. The overwhelming majority are histories, with a small run of night legends that read like novels, a handful of basic education texts, and the rest literature. Control of knowledge in this world is evidently very strict. If I had not landed next to Old Green, I might have survived and I would almost certainly have been illiterate. Most of it is useless to me and a little of it broadens my picture of the continent. 3 books are a different matter. When truth ran its deep pass over the library, it found something hidden inside 3 of those novels. They are called Tales of Wizards, Mysterious Continent, and Mind Elevation, and on the surface, all 3 are the same kind of story about talented people running into trouble on a journey toward truth. I recorded them to widen my knowledge and thought nothing else about it. Then the analysis came back saying there is a cipher buried in all 3. Strip the useless content out of the codes and messages inside them, and the book's real shape appears underneath. The decryption is at 77%, and it has been running for 3 days, which tells me something on its own. The truth chip is a brute force machine of the first order, and this is exactly the kind of work it eats. 3 days means the encryption on those books is not something this world should be able to produce. The mathematics and cryptography visible on the surface here do not reach that level. There is something under this world that nobody has told me about. I catch my own heartbeat picking up and make myself breathe. Then I check the progress once, leave it running, and go get a sword. What I am short of is real combat, and there is only one way to buy it. My physical attributes are absurd for an apprentice, since I already have an official knight's body, so the only 2 people in this castle who could safely spar with me are Baron Crow and Oss. I am not showing them what I actually am, so on the outside I remain an ordinary apprentice. That leaves hunting. If I cannot fight people, I can fight things that are trying to eat me. At the gate, a guard asks whether Lord Green is going hunting again, because they have seen me leave dressed like this every day this week and I come back carrying dinner every time. I make a noise of agreement. He does not press, and he respectfully hands me a full quiver. The living quarter has no armory, and the nearest store is built against the inner wall, so I collect arrows here on my way out. I walk the wall line and go into the forest, and I deliberately take the range on the opposite side to avoid running into anybody from Saladin. I would rather not take risks at all. Unfortunately, combat experience is only sold in one shop, and buying it now while the risk is small is far better than needing it later and finding out I do not have any. The snow is mostly gone and the woods are full of things hunting each other, which suits me exactly. I have truth watching every direction while I walk, and then I ask it to search for traces of large prey. Red arrows come up in my vision, pointing at the places most likely to be holding something big, and I go where they point. I have not even arrived before something enormous roars up ahead, so I pick up speed and close on the sound. As I get near, I slow down and quiet my feet. There are 2 animals making noise in there, one snorting and one roaring, and I lower myself and part the brush. What I am looking at is a boar and a bear, squared up. The boar is the size of a small hill, covered in bristles under a hard crust of dried mud, and the tusks on it would go through anything it caught. Its hind legs keep working at the dirt like it is winding up. The bear is circling, 4 meters of body on thick limbs with claws that mean exactly what they look like, and it is looking for a way in. Truth labels them for me. The bear is a mountain tyrant bear at strength 3.1 to 3.2, speed 2.1 to 2.2, physique 3.5 to 3.7. The boar is a Barros black boar at strength 3.3 to 3.5, speed 1.9 to 2.1. Physique 3.6 to 3.8, which raises a question, because both of these species are strongly territorial and neither leaves its range willingly, let alone picks a fight with another apex animal. Beasts are not people. The injury risk is enormous, and they almost never fight to the death unless they are starving. The situation is abnormal, so I decide to watch rather than take both of them at once. On paper, the boar wins everything except speed. The bear is not stupid about it either. It knows the boar has to commit its whole body to turn, so it stays close in circles and refuses to give it a straight run, and while it circles the distance keeps shrinking. When the boar finally realizes what is happening, it charges, and by then the bear is too close for it to build any speed at all, which gives the bear time. The bear stands up like a man, steps off the line of the charge, and brings both forelimbs down on the boar as it goes past. The boar loses its feet and goes over on its side, and the bear sees the belly and does not stop hitting it. 2 wails and the boar is finished. Then the bear settles in to eat. Legend says mountain tyrant bears can use traps, and having watched that, I believe it. I look at the long sword and the metal bow and think about it for a while, and I pick the sword. My melee work is the weak part, and if I do not fix it, any real fight is going to be dangerous. This bear is a good opponent for it. I cannot match its strength or its physique at all, and my speed is overwhelmingly better. So if I hold the rhythm and never trade blows straight on, my risk stays low. I throw a stone at it. It gets hit mid-meal, spins around, and goes rigid. Then it finds me and comes. Combat assistance comes up, and the chip starts putting predicted trajectories directly onto my retina. I do not wait for it. I use the speed and go at it. And at the last instant I drop low, break to the front right, and open its left foreleg on the way past. The sound of that is not pleasant, and the bear goes straight from surprised to enraged, because in its world things run away from it, and this one has heard it. It has intelligence, I decide. Not a great deal. Then I make the whole fight a guerrilla action. I stay off its line and circle it and let the chip make every movement I make as short and direct as possible, and all that enormous strength has nothing to touch. Every cut I take goes into a blind spot. It stands there like a post being taken apart, unable to answer any of it. It finally puts one last roar out and goes down, and by then it is wearing dozens of cuts, and no physique survives that much blood leaving it. I do not walk up to it. Bears are famous for playing dead, and I have a cheat, and the cheat says its heart is still beating. So I take the metal bow off my back and put an arrow into it. It comes up off the ground and charges me one last time, and my arrow arrives first. White fletching, straight into the skull, half the shaft buried. Truth confirms the heartbeat has stopped, and the blood energy is dissipating. I rope the bear and the boar together and start dragging them home. For creatures at night level, the flesh and blood are worth a great deal to ordinary people, and an ordinary knight would struggle to kill one of these alone and face to face. I manage it because of what I am, plus a machine that closes off every escape route, plus archery that is frankly cheating. A guard on the wall spots me and shouts down that Lord Green is back. Then he shouts again, differently, that Lord Green has hunted something enormous, that it is a bear and a boar, and that somebody should get a carriage down there immediately. They bring one out, and the noises those men make are worth the walk. None of them have seen game like this. The ones who know their species identify a Barros black boar and a mountain tyrant bear, and point out that both are night-level creatures, and ask each other how I possibly took them. The way they look at me shifts while they load it, and on a few faces it goes past respect. Get these back to the castle, I tell the guard leader, and have the cooks process them as soon as possible so none of the flesh and blood power goes to waste. Save the essence portions for Old Green and me, and divide the rest among everybody in the castle. That gets them moving considerably faster. The news goes through the building before I do. Judging by the wounds, most people conclude the boar and the bear fought first, and I took the opening, which is fair. What they cannot explain away is the killing blow. It was an arrow, and the cuts all over that animal say I stood in front of a mountain tyrant bear and killed it, which puts my combat talent somewhere they were not expecting. The whole castle eats well that night, and for the young ones it is worth more than a meal, because the life energy in night-level flesh helps enormously. Eating it before working the breathing technique can improve the odds of condensing a life seed at all. Baron Crow sends Basil to ask my permission and then puts a portion into the ice cellar. He uses his own night-level life seed to push power into the ice and seal the energy into the meat. When the castle's trainees make their first attempt at a life seed, a share comes out for them. I am not thinking about that. I am watching Old Green. He picks up a piece of the boar on a fork, examines it, and tells me he genuinely has no idea how I took these two. Night-level creatures carry power far past ordinary animals, he says, and asks how I killed them. Luck, I tell him. Pure luck. I happened to catch them fighting each other and I took the opening. Which is not even a lie. I simply have not told him all of it, because the part I left out is that the bear was at full strength when I engaged, and I soloed it without taking a scratch. He can see I do not want to discuss it, so he stops asking. Everybody has secrets, and prying too hard into them is bad manners. After he finishes eating, I check him. Old Green reads, Strength 1.7, Speed 2.0, and a physique that now runs 0.8 to 1.5, with the injury still flagged. His physique came up by 0.1, which means I need to hunt a great deal more of these. It will not put him back at his peak. It might buy him years. What the rest of this castle sees as prey that requires an elite team of knight apprentices to bring down is something I can now collect casually. After dinner, I go up to my room and lie down and open the interface for the real work. First, I glance at the decryption. 79%, with an estimated 10 days and change remaining. More than 10 days then, and there is no rushing it. So I pull up the other project instead, which is my analysis of what vitality actually is and how it relates to external energy. Truth has been chewing on that, and between the chip and what I brought from my last life, the shape of it is finally coming apart in my hands. The essence of vitality is an individual life converting external energy. That conversion ability starts rising at puberty, peaks somewhere between 18 and 25 and declines steadily afterward, which lines up suspiciously well with human cell division. By the work of my old world, an ordinary person peaks in exactly that window, and past it the metabolic capacity of the cells starts falling off and keeps falling until it presents as age. It also explains why this world insists on the breakthrough at 18. That is when cellular potential is highest, and the ability to convert external energy is at its most vigorous. And the energy inside night level flesh is vitality too, simply at much higher density, with much lower loss when a human body converts it, which is exactly why it helps during a breakthrough. So life energy is nothing more mystical than converting external energy into a form the body can use. What varies from person to person is how much of it they can hold, and that is why breakthroughs sometimes work and sometimes do not. Insufficient internal capacity plus no external resupply during the attempt puts the failure rate at effectively 100%. Judging by Ockart and Oss, the size of that container may even be partly heritable, which suggests the bloodline theory people repeat in this world is not entirely superstition. And there my research stops, because my life seed is not activated yet and I cannot control the vitality inside my own body. Anything more fundamental has to wait. I read the whole analysis back and sigh at the ceiling. Almost everybody in this world chases power and almost nobody chases what it is made of. And they do not even have a decent instrument to look at it with. I have to build my models inside my own skull. I have already decided what happens after Old Green is gone. I go straight to the Maslow Alliance. By everything I have collected, an alliance with a coastline has extremely developed commerce and some genuine technology. And while it cannot be much, it is unquestionably better than this. For now, I tell the chip to start simulated combat. Blue light and my consciousness drops into the simulation. I open my eyes on trees and feel a slight chill in the air, and the fidelity is genuinely very good. Then a Barros black boar and a mountain tyrant bear appear beside me looking ready to start. I find I am smiling. This is going to be worth doing. I raise the longsword, and with the chip analyzing and guiding in real time, my practical experience starts climbing fast, and something that is recognizably my own style starts forming out of it. Inside the simulation, some days later, I am enjoying myself considerably while 3 mountain tyrant bears close in on me at once. The chip has them faintly cooperating. If an ordinary squad met these 3, getting 1 or 2 people out alive would be a gift, and total annihilation is the likelier outcome. The sweat is coming off my face in heavy drops and I am having a very good time. All 3 come at once. I charge them. Blue data flashes across my eyes, and the gaps between the 3 bears arrive in my brain before the bears do. At the moment of contact, they each pick a different attack. One swings its left forepaw, one swings its right, and the middle one comes straight in, which seals the left, the right, and the front. An ordinary knight meeting that arrangement gets his head taken off. I stamp my left foot and put on more speed. At the last instant, I drive off both feet and go up through the only gap there is in a spiral. The longsword rides tight against my body and slides along one bear's forelimb. On the way through, one claw comes off. 3 intact bears could not beat me, and one of them is now out of the fight. The wounds accumulate on all 3, and they die the way the real one did, of too many cuts and too much blood on the ground. Then I fall over. I lie there breathing hard, because reinforced by the chip those bears used tactics, kept compressing the space I had to move in, and were willing to trade injuries. Truth runs a physical check on me and reads it back. Left arm missing, blood loss over 1.5 liters, and a severe tearing wound through the left shoulder. As the simulated adrenaline drops out, the pain arrives, and I make an involuntary noise. If I had not finished them before the adrenaline ran out, the agony would have been me. I look at the stump of my left arm and my skin crawls. The last bear used a life for injury exchange. It took my sword through its own heart in order to deliver one final strike, and that strike shattered the arm and took most of the flesh off my shoulder with it. Fortunately, this is virtual. In the real world, an injury like that kills a knight apprentice. The lesson is not subtle. Pay more attention to what a dying thing can do. Nobody knows what a creature can produce in the last second of its life. By my physical body, even a stray hit from one of those should not have been that bad. That final blow went past the upper limit of its strength entirely, and it nearly took me with it. I end training there, because the pain from a missing arm is not something I want to sit with, and I exit. The environment pixelates and the ceiling of my room comes back, and I am mentally wrecked from the simulation and asleep almost immediately. 10 days later, I am standing in a forest with a longbow. A white-fletched arrow goes through a mountain tyrant bear's brain, and the animal is dead before it finishes falling. And it never learns what happened to it. I do not feel any pleasure about it. What I feel is getting worse by the day. I have hunted every day since the boar and the bear, and as the count climbs I have been noticing something I do not like. The powerful beasts in the Annabelle forest are migrating toward the outer edges. Set that next to the rumors about Saladin, and it is not good news. There is always a reason for a migration. If it is not a food shortage, then something powerful has taken their territory and pushed them outward. And deep in the Annabelle range there are great night-level mountain giant bears. Forcing an overlord like that to abandon its ground and yield is not something a rival animal does. That takes human action at the scale of a legion. There is not much time left. Saladin is moving faster than anybody imagines, so I have Truth build an analytical model and estimate when Saladin attacks. Economic conditions, the internal politics, the geography, the migration rate of everything in the Annabelle range, all of it goes in. The estimate comes back at 90 to 150 days. That tightens something in my chest, so I read the supporting analysis. On the economy, Saladin's taxes doubled last year, and the overall wealth of its nobility did not visibly change, which means a very large amount of money went somewhere nobody is reporting. Grain trading at the White Oak port of the Maslow Alliance is up, and it is expected to feed a war. On the domestic situation, Lothin's internal politics are unreadable. Baron Crow already sent his message up to Grand Duke Lothin, and there has not been a sound of discussion anywhere in the kingdom. That suggests the message was blocked, and that the upper nobility of Lothin are busy tearing at each other and have stopped caring about anything outside. On the beasts, the migration keeps accelerating, the density of night-level animals near the edge keeps rising, and the physiques of what is appearing are climbing toward the night-level ceiling. By the distribution, great night-level beasts are about to start showing up. My face has gone gray by the end of it. Every single time I run this calculation, the invasion date moves closer. The data sources are still too thin. The chip has no God's eye and can only deduce from what it can see, so a wrong answer is entirely possible. I sigh at nobody, sweep the surroundings until I am sure the chip has finished recording, pick up the bear, and walk back toward the castle without looking behind me. 3 voices hit me the moment I clear the tree line, all different, and all of them saying Brother Green. Since my standing changed and I started hunting daily, Asheville, Layla, and Mia have taken to appearing on the path when I come back, and each of them has been working the situation. There is also a permanent stalemate among the 3 of them because the moment one gains ground, the other 2 combine against her, so none of them has actually gotten anywhere. Today is different. All 3 of them are running at me, and all 3 are frightened. I drop the bear and go to meet them, and ask what has happened that has them like this. Asheville has enough of herself left to answer. It is bad, she says. Grand Duke Lothin has rebelled and declared for the kingdom of Saladin. All of Lothin is in chaos. Saladin has declared war, and this place has been abandoned. Let us go back to the castle and talk, I tell them, and I am already working. No wonder there was no word from the capital about a Saladin invasion. Lothin is the border Grand Duke, and he has gone over to Saladin. As the front line against them, if Lothin was intercepting the messages, then the total silence in answer to the Baron is not a mystery at all. It is procedure. We need more information than 3 frightened girls have, so I take them back at speed. The news is already inside. Every face in that castle has panic on it with grief underneath and confusion at the bottom. The maids cannot settle to work. Even the men on the gate look like plants after a frost, and none of them is actually watching the gate. It has gotten this bad already, I think. Looking around at it, I find old Green coming out of the Baron's room, and he looks like he has been hit. He sits down heavily on the edge of his bed. What is going on? I ask him, because that state is not normal for him. He looks at me with a bitter smile and gives me all of it. Lothin did betray the kingdom, and he published his reasons for it. As the primary battlefield holding Saladin off, Lothin sees a war every few decades. In the early years, the king and the Grand Duke worked well together, with the king providing supplies and the duke providing soldiers. Between them, they threw Saladin back every time and occasionally took ground. Then the throne changed hands and the cracks opened. The new king wanted that territory back. Campaign after campaign, the supplies got cut, and during the last Bauhinia campaign, they stopped entirely. If Lothin had not had reserves of his own, Lothin would have fallen in that war. So a man betrayed by his own kingdom looked at the next Saladin assault and understood he could not survive it, and that if he did nothing, his whole family died. Since you are unrighteous, do not blame me for being unjust. He contacted the king of Saladin privately, offered his surrender, and Saladin accepted it about as fast as you would expect. Then Lothin handed over the fortress of Ansarus that he was holding, and let Saladin's main army walk in. With Ansarus gone, a full third of the Lothin kingdom is effectively lost. And the part that matters to us is that this barony sat inside the defensive envelope of Ansarus. That bridgehead is gone, so Saladin's main army only has to get through the Annabelle Mountains to be standing here. The barony was worthless with Ansarus intact. With Ansarus occupied, the river out of the Annabelle range becomes extremely important, and this barony sits on the upper reaches of it. Take this place and you have a staging point to sail downstream. moving troops and supplies as fast as water moves. The surrounding territories are in the same position, since more than one river comes out of those mountains. One barony trying to hold a national army is an insect trying to stop a wagon. With that army already coming through the mountains, the baron has decided to run. He has to. His own value is not high enough to be worth keeping. Even if Saladin accepted a surrender, the barony gets reclaimed and his wealth gets divided. Better to use the time before they arrive, pack everything, take the money, and get out to another country. With wealth in hand and an official knight's skill, he can live very comfortably somewhere else. He does not want to run. He has run out of options, and running is the best outcome available. As for why Old Green looks like this, he fought in the Bohemia campaign and has treated it as the proudest thing in his life. He was proud specifically to have been a soldier under Grand Duke Lothan. Now Lothan has betrayed the kingdom, and it does not matter that the kingdom forced it. Baron Crow and Oss are taking it the same way. I understand the feeling better than he thinks. In my last life, a great many colleagues treated me as an obstacle and came at me from every direction they could find. Public opinion, harassment, and an inexhaustible supply of methods. I do wonder how pleased those particular parasites were when I died on the table. Are you planning to leave? I ask him. I am not that stubborn, he says. He only refused before because the fortress existed. Now that the thing we were leaning on is gone, he is not going to be a fool about it. The words are steady and the loss in his eyes is not hidden at all. The commoners have already been notified by the Baron, he adds, and most of them are moving their whole households out. The hatred between Saladin and Lothan is centuries deep, and once Saladin is in this territory, a large-scale massacre is very likely, and commoners are not guaranteed to survive it. Then he tells me to pack, because we leave with the Baron in a couple of days, which is a relief I do not show him, because if he had refused, I would have had to do something about it by force. So I go and pack. The Baron does the ending properly. He gathers everyone, announces his departure publicly, terminates every contract, and tells the castle servants to decide for themselves. Anybody who wants to come with him is welcome, and nobody is being forced. Most of them choose to leave, and he gives them travel money as payment for their years here, which is more than he had to do. The ones who go with him are the people with no ties elsewhere and the ones who are simply loyal, and that group is mostly guards plus the selected candidates for the breathing technique. Ashville, Layla, and Maya do not get a choice. As nobles of this castle, they would be processed by Saladin, and given what happens to noble daughters when an army finds them, nobody has to explain it out loud. Over 2 days, I learned the route. Saladin's strategy will take the territories along the river first, so the first rule is to get away from the river. The Baron intends to run the convoy hard due north into the Visa's wasteland, and then swing toward Arendelle Port, which is the largest port of the Maslow Alliance. We are not going toward Lothan's own capital because the road there goes through Grand Duke Lothan's territory, and this barony is currently sitting between Lothan and Saladin's army. North is the only direction that exists, and it takes us away from the river as well. Every war between these two kingdoms sends refugees into the Maslow Alliance. The Alliance refuses refugees and is extremely welcoming to nobles arriving with money. Reach that port safely and the rest of it becomes a much simpler problem. Inside 2 days, Saladin's invasion has already reorganized the whole kingdom and refugees start coming through Baron Crow's territory in numbers. They go past with fear and exhaustion on them and their eyes gone hollow, and every so often one of them looks back down the road they came from. A war between these kingdoms was always going to land on these people. They cannot read, and they know almost nothing about the world outside their own fields. So with nowhere to go, they walk toward Lothan's royal capital and hope somebody there takes them in. I stand on the castle and watch them move, and I do not have anything useful to feel about it. Their ending is not going to be good. The capital will not let them in, because Saladin has certainly seeded that column with its own people. To protect itself, the capital will have these refugees kicked from territory to territory like a ball. Saladin needs them moving too, because a country full of displaced people is a country that cannot organize itself. After 2 days of sorting, most of what is worth anything in that castle is on a carriage. I have very little to prepare and Old Green does not have much either, so our whole carriage goes to food and water. I also rebuild it. Every old part comes off and gets replaced. I reinforce the frame specifically. I throw out everything unnecessary, and I use the space I win for more supplies. At sunset, the horizon looks like it has been set on fire, and the blood-colored cloud over this land is not subtle about what is coming. More than a dozen carriages stand in neat order on the training ground, all different sizes and all wrapped tight, and there is no telling from outside what is in any of them. Some horses stand with castle guards already mounted, and the rest of the men are beside the vehicles, and altogether the column is close to 100 people. Baron Crow, Oss, and I are out on the wall, because we are the military guarantee for this march and everybody knows it. We are waiting on the last report. The Baron sent scouts out days ago to find where Saladin's army actually is. I tell Captain Oss I hear he visited the Maslow Alliance once, and I ask him what it is like. He is in heavy armor and built like a siege engine, and he has been staring out past the wall with a worried face. And the question puts something wistful on it. He has been, he says, more than 10 years ago. He was still in the army and drew a food transport mission, and that gave him the honor of a trip to Arendelle. Then he tells me the Alliance is completely unlike us. Loden and Saladin are ruled by kings. The Maslow Alliance is run by a parliament, and every order has to be voted through before it can be executed. Some orders get voted down entirely, which is not a thing that happens where a king is supreme. Arendelle port is enormously prosperous, he says, with countless cargo ships trading every day, and the city itself is far bigger than our own royal capital. He gets happier the longer he talks about it and starts using his hands to describe the ships. Commerce there is extraordinary and anything can be bought. Goods from Loden and Saladin are everywhere, and there are goods from countries across the sea. There are no nobles in the entire country, and the people with status are counselors and top-tier merchants. Then he tells me his own plan, which is to open a fencing hall there and teach. He says it is a good place to build something. He also says the Alliance's actual national strength is very high. Knight apprentices are ordinary on the street, and official knights are not rare, and by his estimate it exceeds both Loden and Saladin comfortably. For reasons nobody has explained, the Alliance never expands, and neither Saladin nor Loden has ever gone to war with it. Even during a war, neither kingdom objects to the Alliance selling supplies to both sides at once, which is strange enough that my curiosity wakes up properly. By that description, the Maslow Alliance is sitting somewhere above the whole board. The Baron has turned his head to listen too, because his rank is higher than Os's, and he has never been there either. By this route, it takes about half a year, Os says. Mostly because avoiding Saladin's army means going north into the Visa's wasteland first. The middle of the journey is easy walking. The wasteland is the problem. Water is a serious issue and water can be carried, so that one is manageable. The real problem in the wasteland is bandits. It is the only road to Arendelle port, so there are a great many of them and they rob caravans regularly. This year there is a flood of fleeing nobles, which to a bandit is a banquet. With the three of us he is not too worried. He points out that my archery is a serious threat to that kind of enemy, and that bandits are not fanatics and will disengage quickly once they start losing people. That is not the part making me frown. I am thinking about the other noble convoys. By his own account, there are a great many of them out there of every size. In an open wasteland with no authority anywhere, the thing to watch is not only bandits, it is our fellow Loden nobles. Because with no constraints at all, taking somebody else's wealth is a very efficient way to arrive in Arendelle rich. When I say it out loud, both of their faces change. Your worry is not unreasonable, the Baron says. When we make contact with other nobles, we watch them too. So the three of us start working out how the caravan gets arranged once we are in the wasteland. The brush of the tree line comes apart, and a group of men bursts out running for the castle with panic all over them. They are the scouts the Baron sent 2 days ago. One of them is shouting before he is anywhere near us. Leave now. Saladin's army arrives in 1 day. The Baron's face goes the color of old meat, and he turns and shouts it into the castle. Everybody boards and we leave immediately, because Saladin is already coming. The people inside have been ready for days, and it still nearly comes apart, and the advance arrangements hold, and nothing serious goes wrong. The column forms and starts moving. I get onto a carriage. Old Green and I have one between us and he drives it, because I need to be rested enough to fight at any moment. Baron Crow takes the front and Os takes the rear, and my carriage rides in the middle. As the archer, being at either end helps nobody. From the middle I can support both. I open both windows for air and a view, and watch our convoy grind forward, and a great many memories about that barony come up and stand around. Looking at the longsword and the metal bow laid on either side of me, I have some thoughts about how quickly a world turns over. Dozens of carriages and 30 or 40 guards moving day and night, with green jungle on both sides, and altogether we look about as significant as ants crossing the Amazon. The creaking of that column fills the whole forest. Apart from the vehicles carrying Baron Crow, Os, and me, almost every carriage is loaded with food and water and is extremely heavy, and the horses are not strong pullers, so we are not fast. Nobody can stay aboard permanently, so people get down and walk in shifts, nobles included, and the soldiers take turns resting inside. We got out early, and it pays. By what the last scouts send back, Saladin's men simply made camp in the barony and started building warships, with no intention of pursuing. The civilians who did not leave were mostly taken and put to work building those ships. After several days of continuous travel, everybody looks wrecked, because nobody has rested properly and travel fatigue is not a joke, and with nerves this tight, nobody sleeps well in a moving box. I am the exception, and there is no sign on me that I have not slept, which is its own kind of tell. Then Truth reports that the decoding is complete, and asks whether I want to view the results. The 3 books finished on the day we left. With the final combination done, whatever was hidden in them is finally sitting in front of me. Basic meditation technique. Then it asks whether to receive an information transmission and warns that mental influence has been detected and that there is a degree of risk. I am not backing away from this. Looking at that translated title, it is not hard to work out what it is for. I close my eyes and watch the interface working directly on my nerves. A strange stream of information runs into my brain. It feels like reading a book, except my eyes are shut and I can perceive the book and its contents inside my own head. Then the contents start dissolving, as though they were never there, and I can feel them being introduced into me instead. Before long, the book in my head is blank, and the material is simply present. I open my eyes. So that is a meditation technique. Peculiar symbols that, seen by somebody with talent, form a particular frequency, and the content goes straight into the brain, which means that if your talent is high enough, finishing the 3 novels is itself the trigger. It also means the method screens its readers automatically. Wizards choose people in a genuinely strange way. The book explains the rest. There is an organization called the White Tower Academy, and these 3 books were made specifically to find newcomers with potential. If your talent is high enough, reading them produces a reaction, and finishing all 3 activates the wizardry inside and hands over the complete information. The content comes in 3 parts. First, an introduction to the White Tower Academy, a white wizard organization from the east coast of the wizard world, which advocates advancing human civilization and progressing alongside ordinary people. Second, the basic meditation technique the Academy produced, which has no cultivation requirements, needs no external objects, and emphasizes steady progress. Third, how to join, which is simply to go to Arendelle Port, wait for the annual admissions conference, present yourself at the Academy's admissions office, and explain your situation. Wizards, I think? The people in legends who chase truth. That profession would have suited me in my last life perfectly. So apparently I end up walking the road toward the truth of a world regardless of which world I am standing in. Not here though. Meditation requires a quiet environment, especially at the apprentice stage, and this convoy creaks constantly. The basic meditation technique also comes with a classification of wizards and the measurement of talent. Before becoming an official wizard, you are a wizard apprentice, and that is split into 3 levels, with the 3rd being lowest and the 1st highest. Break through the 1st and you become an official wizard. Apprentice talent runs across 5 levels, from the 5th up to the 1st. 4th and 5th level talents generally stay apprentices for life. 2nd and 3rd level talents have a real chance at becoming official wizards. 1st level talent becomes an official wizard almost without exception, barring accidents. I have no professional measuring instrument and no idea what level I actually am, since the contents were forced open with a chip rather than read properly. I would estimate I am not bad. As a fusion of 2 souls, I should at minimum be above average. I am still working out when I will get a chance to meditate when truth warns me and tells me to prepare for battle. I stand up, and it starts synchronizing heat source vision. One of my eyes turns into an infrared instrument, and nobody outside has anywhere to hide. Looking back down the length of the convoy, there are 5 unknown heat sources following us. Saladin's pursuers, or bandits. So I open a biological field scan, which is a detection method I developed myself out of continuous research on life, and it reads high-strength living bodies specifically. 4 of them come back at ordinary night level. The 5th reads strength 3.2, speed 2.7, physique 3.2, which is peak night. 4 ordinary knights and 1 at the peak. Bandits are very unlikely with a composition like that, so these are pursuers Saladin sent, which is not surprising. A large number of fleeing nobles are carrying all their wealth with them, and no army walks away from a fortune like that. Since the main force cannot catch us, they sent an elite squad to intercept and kill instead. My mood is oddly relaxed about it. Unfortunately for them, they have miscalculated. Night-level opponents do not matter to me in any number. I do not move on them though, just in case. Judging by how they are content to trail us, they intend a surprise attack after dark. I lift the carriage curtain. Old Green is not up front, so he is resting in another vehicle. And Garrett has the reins, which is a face I know. 2 guards walk alongside with longswords and longbows, ready to spell him. Both of them bow the moment they see me, and ask whether Lord Green is awake. I make a waking up noise and tell them I have business with the Baron and Captain Oss, and I ask Dean and Matt to go and notify them. They answer immediately and go, 1 to the front and 1 to the rear, and before long hooves come up beside my carriage with Baron Crow and Oss on them. Come inside, I tell them the moment I see them. Both of them are confused. Both of them also read my face and get in without wasting a second on questions. With both of them aboard, the carriage is small. The Baron and I are ordinary sized and manage fine. Oss alone occupies most of the available world. And now is not the time to discuss it, so I go straight at it. Somebody is following our convoy, I tell them, and they are very likely pursuers sent by the Kingdom of Saladin. That lands like a dropped anvil, and for a moment both of them are simply frozen, staring at me. Then the veterans in them come back online. The Baron gets there first, asking when I noticed, how many there are, and what our chances look like. Neither of them thinks I called them here as a joke, which means both of them have already decided this is real. Just now, I tell them, I woke up, looked out the window, noticed unusual movement in the forest behind the column, and worked out that we were being followed. After watching a while, there appear to be 5 of them, and since we have been traveling day and night with a head start and they still caught up, I am afraid all 5 are night level, which is a lie constructed around what the chip actually told me, and it holds. Both of their faces go pale. 5 night level powerhouses is effectively invincible from where they sit. Military men fight in coordination, and a coordinated 5 is worth far more than 5 individuals, and ordinary knights would want double the number simply to absorb the first assault. Our side has 2 ordinary knights and 1 knight apprentice. I am not a typical apprentice, and I have never shown them what I actually am, so in their arithmetic, however strong I am, I cannot possibly stand next to a real knight. We abandon the valuables and run, the Baron says, arriving at it fast. Their target is not us, it is the money. With luck, once we drop it, they stop chasing. If we give up those supplies, Oz says with his head down, the road ahead becomes brutal. Without enough food and water, a great many people die crossing the Visa's wasteland. Then the carriage goes quiet, and I watch both of them start privately considering which people they would abandon and which they would run with. It is not that bad yet, I tell them, and I smile while I say it. Even with 5 night level opponents, I can handle it. Both heads come up, and what is on their faces is disbelief with hope underneath it. My archery is exceptionally good, I say. As long as the 2 of you can hold the one who feels strongest, I will resolve the other 4. I say it the way a man talks about stepping on 4 ants, because I want them to believe it. The Baron asks whether I am truly certain, because this is not a joke. Rest assured, I tell him. I would not say it without being sure, and I am not gambling Old Green's safety either. That last part is the one that works. Everybody in this convoy knows exactly what Old Green is to me, and nobody believes I would take a blind risk with him aboard. Once they agree, I give them the plan quietly, and both of them lean in to listen. When they climb out again, both of them are smiling, and there is not a trace of worry left on either face. They call a farewell and ride back to their own carriages, and each of them is carrying a small vial. Behind us, in the trees, one of the 5 is getting impatient. The young one asks his captain when they are attacking, because it has been a long time, and he wants to know whether they still need to observe. An older man beside him tells White sharply to drop the impatience, and asks whether that is any way to speak to the captain. That one is D's, and there is a great deal of composure in his eyes. The young man's tone changes immediately, and he explains that he is only impatient, that they do not get sent out often, and that they absolutely have to bring spoils home. The captain finishes his observation and looks at the youth who is so hungry to make a name, and shakes his head slightly. Then he remembers the intelligence, which says the convoy has only 2 night-level defenders, and that is a force his squad can crush, and his own guard comes down along with it. Fine, he says. The sun is nearly down. Once it sets, they will stop to rest, and we hit them then. White announces that they should watch his performance. Then he adds that among the final spoils he has his eye on a few of the girls, and that nobody should compete with him for them. The smile that goes with it puts a chill through the men standing next to him. White has always enjoyed hurting people, and the women he takes an interest in do not come out of it. The rest of them dislike it, and none of them says anything, because White genuinely has the standing to behave however he likes. He learned a breathing technique early, and after making Knight Apprentice he moved up so fast that he was an official knight within 3 years. Inside the Legion, he is considered one of the strongest candidates to reach Great Knight, so nobody reins him in. The only man who can suppress him at all is Dees, because Dees is the one who found him, and White gives him exceptional respect. So both sides sit on that forest road with their own plans, waiting for dark. The sun goes down orange, the moon comes up while there is still light in the sky, and a dozen carriages keep grinding along a bad road. Then the lead carriage raises a flag and waves it side to side, which is the signal to slow, stop, get down and eat, and let the horses rest. The whole column comes to a halt and people start talking among themselves. The guards scatter to keep watch while some rotate into the carriages to sleep, and the rest gather dry wood and leaves and get a fire going. The drivers find open ground and drag the cabins into a circle, and the guards fill a few of the surrounding trees to open the field of view. Inside a few minutes there is a fire in the center, and torches planted in the open ground outside the carriage ring, for light and for watching. The soldiers hold the perimeter, and everybody else starts pulling out food and water. And for a while the camp gets genuinely lively. Behind the screen of the carriages, the Baron, Oss, and I get together, and by now the 3 of us are fully armed. I am wearing Old Green's metal armor, with the longbow on my back, the longsword in my hand, and the quiver on my right hip filled. I have been watching them, I tell the other 2. They have stayed at the tail of the column the whole time without changing formation, which means they think this is already theirs and they have not made a specific plan. Then we proceed as Green laid it out, the Baron says, and Oss nods. So the Baron has more food and water brought out, including some genuinely expensive things. Everybody watching that come out of the carriages starts salivating. In the castle, that food was merely rare. On the run, it is priceless, and even the Baron does not eat it often. The smell gets into the air and travels, and the men following us catch it. These people know how to enjoy themselves, White says bitterly. They have fled their own territory, and they are still living like this. He tells the captain he cannot take it, and that they should attack now. He is not the only one losing his composure. A 5-man pursuit squad cannot carry much, and what they have is dry ration meant to fill a stomach and nothing else. And the taste is best described as a punishment. None of them has eaten real food in a long time, and their mouths are watering on their own. One of the others tells Captain Carl it smells far too good, and that by the intelligence the other side cannot beat them anyway. As long as they are careful and approach slowly, that is the whole of it. Even Dees, who is the steady one, has something hungry in his eyes. Carl feels his own stomach and grinds his teeth. Attack early, he says. Close as much distance as possible without exposing ourselves. The order goes out and the other 4 light up, because in their reading the entire convoy is already in their hands. They start moving in on our circle. By then the Baron, Oss, and I have already left the camp and slipped into the forest, and against the chip their concealment is decorative. I watch 5 men who could not survive the smell of cooking start their attack early, and I have to smile. They fell for it exactly on schedule. The first instinct of anything alive is survival, and food is the most fundamental part of that, and a squad on a pursuit cannot carry much of it. They took the bait, I tell the other 2. Circle behind them, quickly. The 3 of us go around. One of theirs reports that they are at closest distance and can start. They have reached the edge of our defensive ring with the standing guards just beyond. And as they gather themselves, somebody inside the camp roars that there are enemies and to defend immediately. The camp dissolves into apparent chaos and everybody clumps together. The guards snap into a combat posture and fall back around the carriages. How were we discovered, Carl says, and looks around at his own men, every one of whom is concealed properly with no way to have been seen. Then we force it, he decides. Everybody charge. A raid that becomes a frontal engagement is a completely different proposition. For the sake of speed, the squad brought no armor, only a thin layer of leather. In a straight fight, they would still go through those guards, and guards with bows can hurt them. And with shields in the mix, the trouble multiplies. The squad might take casualties. Deaths are unlikely and injuries are suddenly very likely. They come out of the jungle fast, using the explosive output the breeding technique gives them, closing on the guards like cats. Against ordinary guards, 5 night-level men charging, with the pressure of 5 life seeds coming off them, would send the nervous ones running outright. Carl notices the problem quickly. The guards are far too calm, as though they have known from the first moment that this was coming. And when his squad broke cover, the nervousness on those faces actually eased. We have walked into it, he thinks, and stops dead. Fall back, he shouts. It is a trap. The other 4 do not understand and obey anyway, stopping and turning. And a voice from among the carriages calls for arrows. Every closed window on those carriages comes open at once and arrows start coming out of them, straight into the 5. Those are the guards who were supposedly rotating into sleep, and in my plan they had the most important job in it. The 5 of them are at the exact moment of turning, with the old strength spent and the new not yet arrived, and none of them can do anything effective about it. Arrow after arrow goes into them. It is night, and even with torches around the ring, the guard's accuracy is not good, so only 3 of the 5 are hit. 2 take arrows through the hands and 1 through the thigh. The 2 hand wounds are deliberate. Both men saw the arrows coming for their bodies and put their arms up, because a hand is cheaper than a chest. Carl is not hit at all. He was the first to understand what was happening, which bought him the time to move, and he gets into a dodge. Then he makes a fast decision, goes straight for the man with the thigh wound, hauls him onto his shoulder, and runs for the jungle. The other 3 run with him. The guards are holding bows, and bows do not fire quickly, and the 4 of them cross the open ground without meeting anything. They look back and see nothing but men with bows, and they let out a breath. Then they turn their heads forward and run for the tree line with the specific relief of people who have just survived something. Get into the jungle, regroup, and this convoy is theirs eventually, which is roughly what they are thinking when 5 arrows come out of the trees in front of them. These are not like the guards' arrows. They are extremely fast, and every one of them is aimed at a chest. Every man in that squad has his attention pointed backward, and none of them expected anything ahead, and all 4 runners go down. Even the man riding on Carl's shoulder takes 1. 4 bodies hit the ground in sequence, with 1 scream on top of it. The 4 on the ground have arrows standing out of their chests, with half the shaft buried. Then the 3 of us walk out of the trees. The downed men pull the arrows out of themselves, produce some kind of powder from inside their shirts, and pour it straight into the wounds. Heavy bleeding stops fast, and the scabs it forms are bright red, and are obviously going to tear open the moment anybody moves. Carl keeps a hand over his wound and looks at the 3 of us. At night level, their vitality is stubborn enough that injuries like these are not fatal. How did you find us, he asks, and he genuinely cannot make it fit. We found you the moment you arrived, I tell him. Then I ask whether he enjoyed the show we put on. He laughs at that and says he did not expect their concealment to be so poor that they were spotted on arrival. Your concealment was excellent, I think. I have a cheat. Then he lowers his head and goes quiet. However, he says, do you really think this is enough to beat a knight? And he comes up out of that crouch and straight at us with his hand still on his wound, and his speed is several times what it was when he approached the camp. In Carl's reading, resolve the three of us and the rest is housekeeping, and even injured he can do it. His remaining three come with him. The three of us do not move at all. We stand there and watch it happen with our faces perfectly pleasant. 4 men in a full sprint feel their limbs stop working and go down flat. Poison, Carl says, and cannot believe it. A knight's body is extremely robust and the exclusion effect of the life seed is powerful, and poison is almost useless against it. Even a poisoned knight should not lose the ability to act this fast. How does it feel, I ask him, and I explain it kindly, because he has earned an explanation. It is a mixed toxin I formulated specifically, and even a knight cannot hold out against it. It will not kill him. It will take a knight's mobility away for a while. I built it back in the castle after Basil collected the base materials, out of poisonous mushrooms, snake venom, and poisonous plants from the forest, formulated through the chip. The result is extremely potent and works on neuromuscular function specifically. Once it is in the blood, even a knight goes down inside a short window. Carl lowers his head and he does not want to, and the toxin does not consult him about it. The guards come out and chain all 5 to trees. The one who took an arrow badly does not get tied. He gets hung because of where the wound is. I look at that wound once and my skin crawls, and I decide not to look again. When he went down off Carl's shoulder, he landed on the shaft. It drove the arrow through into places an arrow should never reach, and the damage is not survivable in any way that matters, which explains why he screamed once and has not made a sound since. There is a level of pain past which people simply stop. Oss interrogates the 5 of them for a while and gets exact information, because these particular mouths are not difficult. I offer them a menu first, which includes flaying, slow slicing, and cutting a man in half at the waist. Their attitudes are already wavering by then, and when I get to the last item on the list, they answer with remarkable speed. By the end, all 5 want a quick death and nothing else. The 5 are Carl, White, Dees, Hank, and Terrace, of the elite reconnaissance squad of Saladin's First Legion. They are indeed hunting fleeing nobles. Saladin did not send only this squad either. There are more than a dozen out along different lines, plus teams of ordinary soldiers behind them whose job is hauling the wealth home, and those ones do not fight and simply march. Somebody's luck was very bad here. The overwhelming majority of those squads are 1 or 2 knights leading 3 or 4 apprentices. The only squad that came after us was 5 knights. As for what to do with them, cutting weeds without pulling the roots means the spring wind brings them back. The Baron has all 5 beheaded, confirms they are dead, and has pits dug on the spot. What stays with me is that White, the one with the ruined lower body, had something like relief in his eyes at the end, given that the arrow inside him was never removed, and that every breath and every movement he made for those last hours would have been unimaginable. Death was genuinely a mercy for him. With the pursuers resolved, the Baron calms the camp and gets everybody moving again immediately, because nobody has any interest in resting now. They want distance. A month later, the sun is directly overhead, and there is nothing under it but yellow sand and gray-brown rock, with a few shrubs and some dead grass. Vultures work the sky looking for carcasses. Every so often a wind comes across the ground and puts dust in the air. Our convoy is out in the middle of it. Since the pursuit, panic has been sitting in this column, and the only medicine the Baron has is to keep everybody moving. In a month of travel, we met no further pursuers and ran into wolves a few times, and the guards handled that without needing any of us. Along the way, we kept meeting other nobles who had chosen to run, and at the exit of the forest there was a crowd of them. None had the strength to cross the wasteland alone, so all of them were hoping to combine with somebody. They noticed us the moment we came out of the trees. Our convoy looked as rough as everybody else's, and the observant ones noticed that under all that exhaustion, the people in our column had confidence in their eyes. They noticed it most looking at the carriage in the middle where I was riding, and what was on those faces was pride. So they went and collected information, and when they learned that our convoy had killed 5 knight-level combatants, the disbelief was general. It was followed immediately by a flood of requests to travel with us. Most of them are weak and carrying almost no supplies, which makes them ballast. After some discussion, the Baron and Oss chose to take exactly 1. Baron Candia holds territory reasonably close to ours. He himself is an official knight, and his captain of the guard is a knight apprentice, and their combat power is not comparable to ours at all. His luck was excellent, and he never met a pursuit squad, because with what he has, his convoy would not have cleared the forest. What he does have is a large quantity of food and water. Candia understands exactly how weak he is, and knows that without joining somebody quickly, Saladin's pursuers catch him, and being forced into the wasteland after that is worse. At the price of 3 wagons of food and water, Baron Candia joins us. With supply that deep, the convoy enters the Visa's wasteland. Somebody inside my carriage thanks Lord Green for his guidance. There are 2 young men about my age receiving instruction from me, and they are Crocon and Oakheart. On breaking through to Knight Apprentice, these are the only techniques I can teach, I tell them. I believe their fathers have said the same thing, which is that in the end it depends on their own work. Then I close my eyes most of the way and wave them out. They stand, bow, and back carefully out of the carriage. Outside, they walk toward the front of the column comparing notes on what I told them. Lord Green's explanation was so detailed. Oakheart says, and completely unlike his own father's, because when his father explained it he only half understood. Crocon agrees with that. Their fathers do not actually seem to know how they broke through to Knight Apprentice, he says. They can only describe the feeling instinctively, which is nothing like Lord Green's clear explanation. He thinks following my method will improve their odds substantially. Once they are gone, I open my eyes properly, open the window, look at the same unchanging desert as yesterday, and shut it again. Once we entered the Visa's wasteland, Saladin's pursuers could not follow, and with time on their hands, everybody has been looking for something to do. Instructing Crocon and Oakheart is something the Baron and Os personally came to ask of me, and I agreed on the condition of receiving a carriage full of valuables. There is essentially no threat now, and crossing the wasteland is close to guaranteed, because the bandits out here cannot meaningfully threaten this column. I also have to think about what happens once we reach the Maslow Alliance, and arriving with a sum of money makes everything simpler, so I did not refuse the condition. Then truth tells me the life seed solidification is complete, and that I may now break through to official knight. I have been watching for that. In an empty wasteland there is nothing to do but travel, so I have been keeping an eye on the chip's tasks. An apprentice's first meditation has to happen somewhere quiet, and I have not had the chance, so the basic meditation technique waits until we settle in the Alliance. The method for the night breakthrough itself is recorded in Old Green's storm breathing technique. By the chip's analysis, activating the life seed gives it a function like a second heart. It connects the internal and external energy pathways so the seed absorbs external energy with every breath and feeds it back into the body, and over time it keeps storing that energy.